our Father in heaven, it is with gratitude that we meet together under such favorable circumstances in this great country, in this great state, in our beautiful little town. We're grateful for our many blessings, especially this time of year. We pray that tonight we might have a spirit of discernment and harmony here in this meeting as we talk about the affairs of the community. We pray that what we see, what we do here tonight will be of benefit to this community and to the people who live in it. We ask you now to bless us with thy spirit in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Join us for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God.
Okay, announcements. Burn ban is lifted, burn away. We're still on stage 3 water restrictions. Despite all the rain, let us rain, keep praying for more. We're a long way to go to success. And our very own Laurie Cassidy, the Texas Municipal Clerks Association. There's 31 cities in the Hill Country, includes Kerrville and passes all. She is the 2023 Municipal Clerk of the Year. I need to add to that. The same day that I learned about that, I heard a report from my wife, and I'm not going to go to the details, but a woman in the community was in a difficult situation, and it blows me away. The selfless service. Laurie stepped up, took care of this woman's needs, fixed it at her own expense, and she doesn't want to even anybody to know about the details. So I'll keep that private. Laurie did confirm that. So I have, and it's just a piece of paper, but it's a certificate of appreciation. You represent the best of our community. And a couple $50 gift card to Buchanan's Coffee Shop around the corner. Here's a $100 gift card from Redbud. Oh. And here is a bottle of wine from the Holy Archangel Monastery by way of uptown Blanco.
Thank y'all.
All right, public comment. Let's see here. We have the regular meeting. We have Mr. Brian Paris.
Okay. So with support from the city of Blanco and Blanco County, TxDOT has initiated the US 281 relief route study. Who initiated the conversation with TxDOT on the subject? When was this discussion started? Did the city of Blanco or did the city council discuss the vote to support TxDOT on this issue? I can't find it in the minutes. If TxDOT says with the support from the city of Blanco, who gave the support? Call off the bypass with TxDOT. Build and complete the 281 expansion from Comal to the 281 290 intersection and reevaluate the true need for a bypass before you ruin the lives of those on the bypass route along with the city of Blanco. It seems to me the city of Blanco has gathered up a number of carts before they have the horses to pull them. It is my understanding that the city of Blanco has not even completed an economic impact study to determine if supporting TxDOT in this US 281 relief route study is a good idea. Furthermore, it hasn't been established whether or not 281 Main Street would be maintained by TxDOT or become the responsibility of Blanco. I've heard many want Main Street back, but that means can we properly maintain it, or will it look like our other Blanco streets? Has the city of Blanco looked at other small towns that have had bypasses built around them to see how they have been impacted? I can only assume no. Instead, the city of Blanco seemingly has asked TxDOT to help them build a bypass in an effort to improve safety and reduce traffic through Blanco. Is it really that unsafe? Most of the northbound traffic, primarily on weekend congestion, is congestion due to the fact that 281 from Comal County line to Blanco Avenue on the south end of town is a single lane traffic most of the way. To my knowledge, southbound traffic has never been an issue. Enforcing the speed limits on 281, especially the large trucks, would help improve safety. To my knowledge, there have not been a large number of incidents in town on 281. It is my understanding that city government and some citizens view Blanco as a destination town. I disagree. We can't even keep all of our restaurants open consistently 5 to 7 days a week for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What is it that attracts and will continue to attract folks to purposely turn off of the bypass to come through Blanco and spend money in our community? We cannot generate enough tax revenue from businesses and citizens through local support and outside tourism to maintain our streets and our water treatment facilities. We can't even keep the grounds around the old courthouse building in great condition. Grants are not perpetual funding. If the relief route bypass moves forward, the city of Blanco and citizens will be responsible for turning the lives of those landowners upside down. The prices and availability of land will make those properties irreplaceable, not to mention the value of land owned by families for generations. Without a doubt, those families directly impacted will have to move away from Blanco County, taking their kids out of our schools, potentially forcing the loss of their jobs and ultimately complete relocation. Financially, those families will be set back due to current levels of inflation and those of equity. Our neighbors don't have bypasses. We don't need to be.
Thank you. Mr. Jay Palmer.
Mayor, Council members, I have now gone through, or have had the pleasure to have worked with 5 administrations and such in this town, and it's been an experience. And I will tell you that all that I really ask for is an equal level playing field. And this bypass business has got us all concerned, but me in particular, because it runs right through my property. It destroys a project that was just conceptually approved a few weeks ago, a project that I've been working on for 8 years. And I think that there's been a lot of misinformation that has been disseminated through this community that has to do with the bypass that particularly comes through my property and Mr. Ferris's property is the best route because it's the shortest route. And if the city's required to put up 10% of the cost of this bypass, it's the least expensive for the city. Well, that's just not correct. However, this narrative has been promoted and promoted and promoted at the open house that TxDOT put on. People write their comments on these stickies and put them up on the wall saying, this is the route we should take because it's going to cost the city the least amount of money. When the truth of the matter is, the legislature did away with that requirement of 10% long before all this came about. Yet that narrative is still being promoted and that route is still being promoted. And I have been in these meetings where members have said, we're not going to promote or lobby a particular route for this bypass, yet you are promoting and lobbying for that bypass. I'm not going to point fingers, but it's going on right now to the point that neighbors on Sunset Ridge have met with various council members and have been concerned that their properties will be destroyed. Yet they've been assured we'll just run that bypass route a little farther to the north on Heimer Road, past the Ferris's property, before it makes an angle across into Palmer's property. And that'll bypass your houses completely, Mr. Lightfoot and Mr. Corbett. So don't worry about it. So I'm just here talking about that level playing field and asking the question, who amongst you decides what route is fair? Who gets sacrificed and who gets, bypassed? I don't know, but I do know that I've read that TxDOT requires a resolution issued by the city on where they would like to see this bypass go. So at some point in time, somebody's going to have to make a decision where it should go, and a resolution is gonna have to be made, as I understand it.
Thank you, sir.
And I certainly like to know how that process is handled.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
There is nobody signed up for the public hearing. So we'll move on to a presentation from Mr. Bobby Mack.
You're gonna open the public hearing and close it.
Okay, got to open the public hearing. Okay, on the. Oh, hello, sir. How are you?
My apologies for being late.
That's okay. Councilmember McClellan prayed for us.
Very good.
Fine job. Thanks for coming. So we have to officially open the public hearing. Everybody signed up.
No one speaks and you can close it.
Okay. Closing the public hearing. Thank you very much. Bobby.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Council, Mayor, for having me here. My name is Bobby McClellan. I also go by Bobby Mack. Who I am. I've been part of the Blanco community for well over 30 years. So I'm pretty much a newcomer. During that time, I served on the city council from 2003 into 2015, and I've been included being a council member the entire time, but there was at least a couple of attempts when I was in on mayor position elections. And I love this community, been here for a long time. And I've been asked to get more involved. I'm at a place in my life where I get more involved in what's going on in the city. I love this town. And I've been asked to consider helping facilitate a group that will take a look at comprehensive master plan. In 2004, Loretta reached out to me with help of LCRA. She and I and three or four other folks were on the committee that did the original comprehensive master plan. It was a long-term project, 6 to 12 months. Is that about right? Maybe a bit more than that. Since then, and we did a lot of good things, had 284 total recommendations in that order. There's been some efforts in 2016 and again in 2020 to revisit that, and the takeaways for me from that were those 284, there were 48% of those have not even been considered touched. There were some good things that happened. We created the Planning and Zoning Commission based on the decisions made in that first master plan. There was a good and useful survey redone by a few folks in the community in 2020, and the demographics were updated. I'm glad you guys know, so thanks for your help with that. So this is good information, but there's still work to be done. So that said, it's long overdue for a revival and a study, and also to that point, if we are to take this effort on, one thing to consider, and I've been asked to come and kind of announce this as a function at the borders. The community of Blanco was founded about 150 years ago, but it wasn't until about 100 years, 85 years ago in 1939 that it was officially incorporated. So I believe the working title for this, our work on now, is Blanco at 100. So the vision is that we will look to see what do we want for Blanco to be 15 years from now. Got to keep on. It's going to take a year or two to do this comprehensive master plan activity. But I think the important thing is consensus. And I believe I showed when I was on the council and my management style of business is to be a collaborative manager. And so for this to be successful, it really needs to be a shared vision with all the community. So the idea would be all the stakeholders, all the interested parties, gather up the school districts, all the committees, representatives from the city council, from the committees, from the historic commission, Keep Blanco Beautiful group, a lot of the Alliance Club, etc., including the state park. I think it's important for us to engage the Texas Wildlife and Texas Parks and Recreation folks to bring them into the plan. And I think with the right vision, the collaborative vision that the community really supports, we can convince the state park folks that that's a gem of the state. And what it could be if we had walkable paths from the park, from the state park to Benzar Park, from the state park up and down Mountain Street, for example. It could be a pretty impressive gem of the city. So that's the overall idea. I've made some calls to some of the stakeholders in the town, some interested folks, and the support so far is very positive. I've talked to a couple of the council folks about this, and so I'll just be asking for collaboration. Certainly want to put the word out there that we want all interested parties. There's going to be disparate opinions, and that's important that we work those through. But I think if everyone is good, we can really have a shared vision for what Blanco looks like at 100. That's John. There's a couple of prepared notes that I'm kind of wandering all over the place. There's some big picture questions I think we would ask in this process. One is, what is it exactly about Blanco that gives us our unique character? There'll be a lot of different thoughts on that, but I think that's important. And again, I keep coming back to that shared vision. If we unite as a community, I'm thinking that's pretty powerful. What is the ideal and best use of the remaining raw land and utility capacity within this town? And what type of infrastructure capacity and is needed to support and realize our shared vision of Blanco at 100? What kinds of businesses and development is the best fit with our desired future? And if we foster those kind of businesses, it will automatically push the businesses that are less desired on the back burner. Also, we can certainly close the door with any kind of business in Blanco. But again, I think it's important to note that every opinion is important, and we need to get folks around the table to talk about this. So as far as the methodology to do this, I mentioned this before, but delegates from the city council, the school committee, the school system, county government, state parks and wildlife, community groups, churches, etc. Representatives from these folks could be gathered together, and it would be up to the steering committee's members to reach out to them and answer questions and hold meetings with those different groups to see what their interests may be and their priorities may be. One of the first steps could be produce a professional online survey to get the ball rolling and really gather opinions. We got some great survey results from the 2020 survey, as I said, but that could be updated. We could host school assemblies and initiate essays and speech and art contests to get the students involved and see what the young folks may have and gain ideas from the next generation. We could facilitate community group dialogue, as I said, steering committee reaching out to these different groups. Host a series of open invitation town hall meetings at the beginning, in the middle of the process, and towards the end. Whether you and I were involved in many of those, I think we did at least 3 of those. And then write and format a final comprehensive master plan that is engaging and captivating and easy to understand. So that's the end goal. Key areas are similar to what we did in the original comprehensive master plan, is hitting those quickly. Community engagement, land use and zoning, infrastructure, transportation, housing. That's among some of the top line items. Economic development. Interesting to me, in the 2020 survey, the questions that folks were asked, would they like to encourage city economic development? And the yeses over no's won by 14%, 29% of the folks were not interested in that, 43% definitely were interested in that. So that's a bit of a driver. In fact, just briefly on that, economic development sometimes I think gets a bad rap. That's an important step. That doesn't mean it has to be development we don't want. It can be economic development that would give job opportunities for our kids when they graduate from high school, for example. They can live and work in Blanco. The implementation is the last, but really in closing, I'll say again that the important takeaway for me, if we're going to preserve our community character as we finish the first century and move beyond, it's vital that we unite right now and share vision and create that plan and implementation to move forward. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions or feedback, I'll welcome that.
You just decided a percentage on economic development. What year was that from?
2020.
2020. Okay. Where was that?
It's on the city website. It kind of shows the results of the survey.
Okay.
They redid the survey. Also, the results of that group went through the entire, comprehensive master plan and made comments on different sections of what had been done in that. And that was also where I got the statistic that 48% or so of those 284 items were never even addressed. Some of them were partially addressed, some of them were completed. But there were half of those recommendations and goals set out in 2004 that had not been addressed at all.
And my last question, is there a particular committee that's giving you structure or steering you?
No.
Okay.
This is really just announcing the initiative, and I just volunteered primarily to be a facilitator and a consensus builder to bring these groups together.
So it's ad hoc, correct?
It's ad hoc. Currently, I have reached out to see what people are looking at these things before, and I'm thinking, driving streetscape. Streetscape wouldn't change, but they, get off topic there, but we made some good actions last night and moving that along, but that may give us at least a little gem that we can build from, around, but there's a lot to do here, of course. Something that, at the risk of going on and on, a couple of ideas I've heard that I agree are worthy of looking at is to have the businesses around Benzau Park invite their patrons to come out on the back porches and view Benzau Park. Similarly, as we find out what we may do with the pecan bottom and improve that and beautify that, then those businesses on that south side of the square can have patrons on the back porch and enjoy the view. So those are the kind of things we need to discuss to build a vision. But at this point, it is just ad hoc. Open for suggestions, but I think it will take 2 or 3 months to really get our legs under us, I believe, on the students that steering community and we get started.
I would think this is, you know, if you read the codes and such, that so much is supposed to point back to the comprehensive master plan. It's supposed to be a current relevant document that people can buy into, and ours is just dated. And a lot of people that are here now weren't even here then. And so, yeah, this is very important. I think doing the heavy lifting of having the vision conversations will make a lot of the other decisions less contentious down the road. So I think you're the right guy.
Everyone has heard. There's no bad ideas. They're all worthy of continuing discussion. Yeah, and I was really proud to be part of that first round of the master plan in 2004. It's a great way for me to plug into the community and now folks see what was important.
I know this has been a hot potato for a number of years. People have talked about it. I mean, thank you for picking it up. I remember.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully we won't stall again.
Yes.
Yes. I'm gonna ask also city administrator this, hopefully with the support of the rest of the council and hopefully with the support of the rest of the council, I'd like to issue a directive to the city administrator to help author a letter of formation with Mr. McClung for a comprehensive master plan update committee. And we can even maybe call it at 100 committee. That's something the rest of the council is willing to support if you put the letter together and bring it back to city council next meeting and discuss the formation.
Great idea.
That makes sense, guys?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to also see our grant research committee formation of that. Remember, we issued a directive for that as well. I'd like to see that council meeting. Thank you.
And speaking of Mr. Escovy, it's time for your presentation, sir.
Can't speak in that digital, so I'll try anyway. Oh, great. Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents of Blanco. This short forecast will be a long meeting tonight. This reminder, the Blanco Christmas parade, yes, it's an old picture. I think about this happy minutes. It's going to be great. December 16th, that's this coming Saturday at 6 o'clock in the town square.
I'm told we have a record number of people signed up to participate.
I had not heard that, but that's great. It's great to hear. Also let you know, no, I don't have a real Christmas tree at my house, but office will be closed on Christmas Day, which is Monday, on the 25th, and then day after that, on the 26th. So, I'm not gonna steal his thunder tonight, but Chip Woods with Performance Services is gonna talk to you a little bit about the meter audit, that is completed and then kind of the next steps. And no, he will not be hopefully taking the meters that look that bad, but we do have 25 and 30-year-old meters for most of the homes here. And then maybe he's short here, so we have a couple look like that, but I think what you're gonna see is you're gonna see a cost savings, and there's a real solid plan that Chip's gonna present to you, his team's gonna present to you. I think you're gonna see a lot of help there over the years, over 20 years span. I always give bad news. I want to give some good news. So our current savings for the general fund is $262,000, $635. It's been steadily going up to a teeny bit. And I really thought our enterprise was down about 70, but it's perked up to 158. That does not include the new rates that we put in. So what you are going to start seeing, hopefully through the next few years, is our both our general fund and our enterprise getting healthier, so that the town can do the things that it needs to serve citizens. I think that's it. Keep it short and sweet.
All right,
Thank you, Chair of Staff.
Questions for Chief?
Bad news is I don't have numbers for you again this month, but good news is that they've got the computer system back online. So there's people are manually entering all of the information from the last 2 months into the computer, so I give you accurate data. I didn't want to give you inaccurate data because we're going to do an annual report. I didn't want to have to try to figure out what numbers were real and what numbers aren't. So that's that. The only other thing that currently, probably most of y'all saw was Friday morning, the school district, along with about 49 other school districts, received a threat by email. It was caught in their contentions. We caught it, notified us right away. We got in touch with Joint Terrorist Task Force and FBI and started working it. It was all unsubstantiated. The threat looks like it came from overseas. When it's not bouncing IP addresses, all of it, it's hard to figure out where that shit came from.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, are there any trends or anything? Are we seeing any more, with the open borders and things like that? I'm wondering if, are we seeing any more crime in our area, or?
I wouldn't say, I think our trends are pretty steady on the open borders for whatever reason. That's kind of staying a 10 issue and not a criminal record 21 issue. I do know we had some traffic stops where we had large amounts of people in one vehicle, which is pretty, confined some of that, border traffic and stuff. But as far as crime, we haven't seen that it's happening. They're passing through the city and not staying in the city or something.
Thank you.
We have the consent agenda. 2 meeting minutes to approve. November 7th, there's a quick one, special meeting. I wasn't here on the 14th. Review any of those?
Yeah, if I may, I'd like to move that we approve the November 7th meeting minutes, but I would like to make an insert. So I'd like to pull meeting minutes from item number 2.
Okay. The motion is to approve the November 7th minutes. Anybody second for that?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Go to number 14. What's your insertion?
Oh, well, I think I spoke at length regarding what was new business item number 2, which had originally been old business number 1, and that's the Palmer variance.
Okay.
And I was one of the 2 in opposition of it. But there wasn't anything in the minutes that reflected my rationale there, so I just wanted to insert a little statement.
Okay.
I passed this off to the city secretary. I think she thinks it accurately reflects what I've said. And it's just fairly short and sweet. It's just that the applicant, and this is all my opinion, of course, did not sufficiently demonstrate hardship warranting variance. Also, the variance compromised health, safety, and welfare provided for in our ordinance. And lastly, that the city endorsement of the sunset access created a civil matter, which is contrary to city policy. I spoke a long time, but that's basically was my comment. I just wanted to make sure it was reflected in the minutes.
There, so.
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
So
I
when
didn't know if you maybe got to see.
I wasn't, the bandwidth was not.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was like 2 in the morning.
So I would approve the minutes with that insertion.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with that insertion.
any discussion? Is there a second? Okay. All in favor? Okay, there's so.
Thank you.
You have his language?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, new business, item 1. This is a variance on 9th Street, Warren.
Mayor, council, President Blanco, usually I usually show that planning commission, I usually like everything on the screen so everybody can see it. It's actually very simple. This is a property that's it's a property that this doesn't have anything on it. This current point, it's in the southeast corner of Cedar and 9th Street. So it will actually, the front will actually be Cedar Street, the side street's actually 9th Street. And if you've ever been there, it's an empty lot, it's about a half acre. But what you end up seeing is a clump of tree kind of in the middle of that property. So if you look at page 4 in the packet, you'll see what if what's required was to get a variance for, it was sort of a 30-foot building line on the front of the Cedar and a 30-foot side building line, because on a corner, a side is considered a front. But if you look, if you go to page 6, you'll actually see how there's trees in the middle. And the reason for the variance for really twofold is number one, to have our building lines so that those trees can be kept. And then you'll also we'll also talk a little bit about how that would fit on here. So I think there's 4 or 5 trees. So what they're asking for is a 15-foot building line on the Cedar instead of 30, and 10-foot on 9th Street instead of 12. Cedar Street, as you know, most of the time, most streets in town are 20-foot with about a 10-foot right of way. In this particular case, you can clearly see that Cedar Street is about a 20-foot right of way, other than the street. So it's the actual property that they're pushed back another 10 feet than what you used to. Fell from property for the holes for the seabolt. So a 15-foot building line would not look weird on Cedar Street compared to other homes on 9 and Cedar. The 10-foot, because it's actually a side, would actually be what would normally happen if there wasn't a street there. It's 7.5. So if you look at the side setbacks and all the setbacks, I have that on page 33. So the reasoning for the variance to allow it is from the property owner standpoint is to keep those trees in the middle, which if you look at our, you can see, look at our comprehensive plan, it does talk about preservation of trees. But from the tactical standpoint of when you're driving down the street, a 15 in the front on Cedar and a 10-foot on the side will look very familiar or will blend in with the community of the rest of the street. So having said that, I'll go ahead and read you the recommendation from the planning commission. It only took about 2 minutes to make this decision, much quicker than my presentation. Planning and zoning recommends approval for the dual building line for 15-foot on Cedar and a 10-foot building line on 9th Street. Dual means that it's only for that home or for those buildings, and you can't add and encroach further. So that's why it's called a dual building instead of just a regular building. So dual building line 15-foot on Cedar and 10-foot on 9. Do you have questions on that?
There's a cyclone fence there on, I guess that Cedar. I mean, is that pretty much the right of way?
Yes, sir.
That mark the right of way?
Yeah, so that cyclone fence on both sides basically is where the property line starts. And so that would actually be, it would be 10, so I'll just say it would be 15-foot building line from there. And then on the cyclone fence of 9th Street, it'd be 10-foot building line from there. From the actual practical standpoint.
It kind of got flagged where the house would go. Looks like it would line up pretty much with the other homes in the area.
Yeah, I looked about a week ago or so, and it appeared that it's, I mean, I didn't measure it, but eyeballing
Yeah,
it.
it's eyeballing.
If you're driving down 9th Street, and most of the homes are not, there's not much on Cedar. It would fit for the rest of the name. I don't know if Mr. Pettit is here or not, if he wants to say anything. So. Yes, sir.
You want to say anything, sir?
Come on up, sir. You want to-
You don't have to say anything. You're welcome to do.
Give me a. Go ahead and have my say. I'm not from around here, but I've been around here a lot, if that makes sense. And, I came across this property and I really didn't buy the property. I bought the trees. The dirt came free. So go buy that property and you see where the 4 trees that are amassed in the middle of that. The whole goal is to really just build a small house. We're not building a big house, we're building a small house in front of those trees so that we can preserve all of those trees that are so beautiful.
Super. Thank you.
I have one question, maybe of either the applicant or the city administrator. Is the address going to be 919 9th Street?
We'll change it to Cedar Street.
It's gonna be, it's already been changed.
Okay.
We got that corrected.
And where this is not one of those areas where the surveys are all white.
No, it's not. I mean, I think like, I mean, that fence basically shows where the property line is now. That's.
And Cedar Street was one entire block long.
Yeah.
So.
I believe it's 818 Cedar, but I can look at it. That's all. But yes.
Any more questions, comments, anybody?
I guess I just have one comment. As a contractor in the city, I've ran into instances like this many a times where our universal setbacks that we have in our building code here don't match the lots and the properties that we have in Blanco in many cases. I believe that a 15-foot front and 10-foot on-site setback is a reasonable setback, and that's something that would have sufficed pre-UDC in Blanco. I would be inclined to approve this variance. I would like to make a motion to approve this variance.
I'll second. Any more conversation?
I have a question. Are we approving the variance or are we setting up a new setback?
You're approving the variance for a dual set, for a dual building line, 15 foot on Cedar and 10 foot on 9th Street for the building to be shown.
Clean that up.
Yeah, clean that up.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Okay, absolutely. I would like to approve the building variance for 818 Cedar Street, that we're approving a variance for a dual building line for a 15-foot building line off of Cedar Street and a 10-foot building line off of 9th Street. And that to include the house and the garage facility.
That's an updated motion. Second. Okay. All in favor? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Item number 2, lift station project warrant.
Mayor, council members, and local residents, I want to give just a little bit of background, and then I'll introduce project manager and our grant manager. So the lift station, as you know, is, I was confused on this road, basically 4th Street. It's an original lift station built many, many years ago. basically right on the river. And, before I got here, like 2020, 21, the decision was made to, it was originally gonna be a rehab, and there was a $300,000 grant. That's part of that, but then, as time came on, basically the decision was made to move that lift station out of the floodplain, and then basically the rehab became building a new lift station out of the floodplain. So where we are at now is, we have the grant in place, and then we also have the construction. Most of you have seen it, and that construction is set to be finished by, well, that's what we're talking about. So, originally, the construction contract with MNC Fonseca that was done in January, and they started working in March of this year, was supposed to be completed by the end of this year, December 31st. We had a grant, $300,000 grant that is tied to that, and Katie will probably explain this a lot better than me, but it's tied to that, and that grant expired on January 30th, 2024. We're going to see an extension on that. So what you're here tonight to discuss is to look at whether you want to extend the contract for MNC Fonseca for an additional 30 days, which is what they are requesting. What I did include, sorry I gave it to you so late, but I received from MNC Fonseca from Jordan Tubing the newest, it's like this, and it's project timeline. We've got a couple of these before, the latest one now has the work to be completed on January 26th, 2024. So before you is a request to extend the contract. We have some of that information. I believe Tim reviewed the contract information on that. And if you would like to hear from both the project manager, Bradley, there with Bethco, and JD Merrick with Langford, who's our grant writer, we can do that now, or you can do that in the executive session.
I'm gonna hear it after. Sure. Yeah, go for it. Good evening, Mayor, Council. We're here today, need to get y'all to agree to an extension on our construction contract for MNC Fonseca. I can go into the details, or we can start with questions. How would y'all like to proceed? My recommendation comes strictly on the fact that there is no benefit to not extend the construction contract. I have plenty of documentation here. We can get into the details of it. We can go 4 years down the memory lane. We can go as deep as y'all want to go as far as the reasoning behind this. Basically, what this extension is this is going on for 4 years, and we're asking for 30 days on 4 years to extend the construction. Okay. The alternative path would be to potentially seek litigation or not extend the contract. The only thing that not extending the contract will not do anything to MNC Fonseca. So I want to be very clear on that right now before y'all vote. If y'all vote not to extend the contract, it's not going to hurt MNC Fonseca today. The only thing that it could put in jeopardy is the city of Blanco and Langford Grant Administration. Because TDA, the only people that are concerned about this contract is TDA. TDA we're going to put in a change order to extend it 30 days. Texas Department of Agriculture, if we pass our 30 days without an extension, the first person they're going to come to is the grant administrator and say, why did you violate the construction contract? And they will seek to come after us and then the city of Blanco. Y'all will then be forced to go to litigation with MNC Fonseca. So I'm here to tell y'all that the best way forward, in my opinion, and my recommendation, is to extend the contract, give them some more time to finish this project due to its length, due to the massive changes that we've done. We've gone from a $300,000 contract to a $1.4 million contract to actually running 2 separate grants. So Warren spoke of one grant. The first grant we're referring to was the grant for the 2019-2020. That is, the $300,000 grant that has turned into a $1.4 million grant. The second grant was authorized by TDA to give y'all an additional $149,000 for the generators that y'all didn't have to come out of pocket for. That, in turn, caused another 45-day delay due to, we had to then, Langford, do an environmental clearance on ground that we had already done an environmental clearance on. We covered that at our own expense, not out of the city's pocket. We did that to help expedite this project and expedite this process. That's why I'm here asking for another 30 days. And this is something that I can understand the frustration of going through a project for this long, wanting it to be complete. But for the simple answer is that the benefit to y'all is to accept a 30-day extension. I would recommend a 45-day extension, but I was in council to seek a 30. My recommendation would be a 45-day because we're going to follow on that 45-day extension with another extension of the TDA grant that we need to do because of closeout paperwork. That has nothing to do with construction costs. That has nothing to do with delays. It's just what happens in these grants when they go on and they've been changed this many times. The closeout paperwork will be closing out 2 different projects. I'll be closing out the new grant that doesn't close till 2025. They authorized us to use the funds on that to help you on the 2021 grant. I know I'm speaking a lot of different terms here, but it's a lot of different things going on. That's why I'm requesting the 30 days. I'd like to open the floor for questions.
I've got some.
Yes, sir.
So, I guess basically you used the term that the city would be in violation of a contract. Is that correct? Is that what you
I don't think I said that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I didn't say that.
All right. Then what violation were you talking?
I said that the only thing that not extending their contract will put us in violation with TDA for not having a construction contract that is up to date with the grant. So we will have a construction contract, and then we'll be having a construction crew on site working without an authorized signed construction contract with the city. That would put us in violation of the grant.
Okay, if we have a contract, and I'm just trying to get clarified so I can understand this. We've got a contract with a contractor. He has a contractual completion date. If he doesn't meet that completion date, he's still obligated to finish the project. He has a performance and payment bond up that guarantees he'll do the work and pay the bills, and it'll be per specifications. Our contract's still active with the GC. He's just delinquent on his completion date.
Again, the Texas Department of Agriculture does not care about that. They care about the date, the fact that we will be having a construction company without a valid construction contract. And then again, you are within those rights, but again, that is a different path than the path that I'm recommending we go down. Because that path goes down to litigation. It's going to go into findings with TDA because as of 12/30, as of 1/1/2024, we will not have a contract with them. We will not have a contract as far as TDA is concerned.
I understand. The city still has a contract and we still
Correct.
have an agreement with our builder.
Correct.
But as far as our finance source, we're not within the parameters they have set for us. And once we violate those parameters, we've done the violation or
That's where
non-compliant.
it starts to get messy. Yes, that's where it starts to get messy, and that's where we don't want to go because that's when we have to start, pointing blame. And then with a project this long, it'd be extremely hard to point blame with some
Well,
of
I'm
the
not trying
factors
to
that.
put blame. I've just, we've visited every week
Yes.
for the last 8-10 weeks
Yes.
about this, trying to come to an understanding, and our contractor has become more motivated. But again, today I was out there, no project superintendent, nobody from NC Fonseca. They had one electrical sub out there and that was it.
And I will, I cannot speak for NC
I
Fonseca.
understand, but
All I can
the
speak
same
for,
thing happened last year.
all I can speak for on that topic is that you will know that I work many grants all over Texas.
Yes.
I work with M&C Fonseca all over the state of Texas.
Okay.
And of the bids that we had 2 bids for this project. If I'm right, Bradley, the other bid was $3.2 million. And we got this one for 1.4. So I would ask the council, a contractor that is known throughout this state, that has done good work throughout this state, would it be in the city of Blanco's best interest to pursue an avenue, of course, that could potentially ruin a relationship with a contractor of that nature versus approving an extension? We get to this extension, we don't have anything, you know the grant's gonna run out. So we only have, this extension will not go on forever, just so that we're very clear on that. This extension is a one-time extension. If they can't get it done, then we will have to do that because they're not gonna grant another extension on the back end. So that's another reason why I would like to go this route and recommend to go this route.
Thanks, Raj.
Yes, sir. Are there any other questions?
Is there anything in the motion that says it has to be a 30-day extension?
It would be the change order that y'all approve. So I have 2 drafts prepared today. I have a 45-day change order and I have a 30-day change order. I didn't know which one y'all would want to approve. My recommendation again would be to do the 45-day change order because as I go back to before, what we're going to do is going to follow on right after this change order is I'm going to come to you and I'm going to have to make an actual amendment to the TDA contract. I'm going to have to request an amendment extension onto the TDA contract for another 60 days because of our contract. They will more than likely, I'm hoping that they will grant that because of the second contract that I talked about with the $149,000. It did not start until August of this year. So those are both in conjunction. So they both have to be closed out together. So as I write up my extension request, I have to say that I cannot close the second one without closing the first one. Therefore, I'm asking for an extension of the first one to close the second grant. They'd be almost obligated to grant me this. So that's why I'm trying to go that route to protect y'all and give y'all some more time for us all.
Now, Ron, why are you recommending the 45 days as opposed to 30?
45 days puts us closer to when the second, so the first grant period will end at the end of January 30th, as Mr. Escobar stated. I'm requesting 60 days on the back end of that grant so that I can do my closeout paperwork. My closeout paperwork usually runs anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. I'm trying to give us all time to close out these 2 projects because we're not closing out just one project. So I'm going to have to close out all the payouts, all the administration from the previous grant. And I'm also going to have to close out all the payouts and the administration for this current grant that we were granted for the generator for $149,000. So those also have to be approved by TDA.
Can those be approved post completion?
They can. I, however, don't like to do business that way because of the simple fact that if I have something out or if we have an issue and I come in that 60-day process and they say we have this issue, we need to fix it. They kick it back to me and I need to work with the city to get with Warren, or I need to work with Bradley, or I need to work with the M&C Fonseca to ensure that our invoices are correct or some of our paperwork is in line. It gives us an opportunity to have that 2 to 3 weeks to that month to resubmit, TDA then reapprove and get all the paperwork processed inside the deadline without being outside that deadline.
I mean, a little visit with Bradley for a minute.
Okay.
And then you may want to be.
So the answer to the question is you're synchronizing TDA grant timeline with construction contract timeline in order to avoid higher risk of violation of the TDA grant.
Yes, that's right. And in all phases, the findings of a construction contract or the Bradley. So.
You've already signed a change order and it's been signed by the GC for 30 days to clarify that, but I've not seen one that's been signed by the GC or the engineer, but you brought one.
I have one.
You
I have one.
You have
that's-
another one.
I did, yes, we did issue one, I think it's 45 days. I said to JD, so he could be prepared for the team.
Okay, all right. The one that I guess the one I saw that came in this morning or last night
Yes, I-
was the one that you processed on the 8th. They signed it on the 11th and we got it on the 12th. Something like that. You know, you and I had visited and I'm receptive to considering a change order. But what I've asked for substantial, just some form of documentation of the delays, and we've gotten what?
As far as the justification that you asked for in the last week, we've got nothing in writing. We can say
We've got nothing.
that's correct.
And then the fact that, again, today, they weren't on site. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna cut my nose off, you know, and jeopardize the city's position. But I would feel a lot more comfortable if they would be more responsive than they have. But apparently that's just not the nature of this beast. It's not gonna happen.
Based on the actions, yes, sir.
I mean, it's not just this week, it's the week before that, and the week before that, and the week before that. I guess I'm gonna come back to JD and ask him, if we grant we grant an extension until January the 15th. Now, that way we have another council meeting, they can come up and give us the documentation that we've asked for. Does that double your workload?
The issue, Councilman Smith, is that I have putting the change order in for the construction contract. Past where I'm from, as your grant administrator.
Right.
I can show you the TDA guidelines. I brought them with me. Currently, yeah, I'm hamstrung right now, to be completely honest. Like, I needed to put this in on 12/1. I talked to TDA, they've given me some grace. Here.
Okay, if we give, if I'm receptive to help the city to do this, but I'm still cognizant of trying to discipline Congress.
Yes.
So my point is, if we approve a change order that was effective and we extend the contract to the 15th of next month, we have a council meeting before that, and they could supply that documentation we requested by then, but if they don't supply us for it, I still guess we have to extend it again.
So I understand your concern. I genuinely do. I understand what you're trying to do, and I can appreciate that. I'm coming to you from a point of view of I'm trying to give you all the best option forward in the sense of what can we do today to give us the best chance for success. If you were to go along the same path of what you're saying,
yes,
that is to be along the lines of, which I'm not trying to be optimistic, but we have to hope that given this situation and the multiple talks that I have just had within the last 12 hours with NNC Fonseca about the fact that I was going to come here today and basically have to go and speak on their behalf because of the situation. I don't think that we're going to have the type of issues that you're concerned about. I think we're going to be okay. That I really encourage you to go forward with this grant extension. Like, I don't foresee problems with NNC Fonseca not meeting that final deadline pending something that's outside of all of our control. And that's what I'm sorry, but I can't guarantee you that, and you know that from being in construction, that I can't guarantee that we're not going to have a blizzard and we can't work for the next 30 days. I can't guarantee they're going to get all their stuff, but this is the best option I see on the table right now of what we can do with TDA. Now, as far as what y'all decide to do with NNC Fonseca and them not doing that, you know, the actions that you can do are things that,
That's not our intent.
for people, I'm just saying, for future grants, you can factor this in. These are part of our scoring sheets. These are things that go into our scoring for the selection of our construction crews going forward and future grant opportunities, things of those nature. Those are some of the aspects that I would recommend. I know you want to put them on a certain time period, but the reason that I'm trying to set up the time period the way that I am is because that everything that I process through TDA, I have to wait 2 to 3 weeks to hear back from. And with the holidays coming up, I don't think that the government agency is going to be manned 24 hours a day, pending that we're going to put this extension in. Now it's the 12th, so I can't even put it in until the 13th. If you do 2 weeks on that to get that approved or denied, which there's no guarantee that our change orders can even get approved, but the hope is to get it approved for all the reasons that I said. But if you do 2 weeks on top of that, that puts us almost into the first of the year. So if we don't, you get how far it keeps going backwards on us if we miss that. Yeah, this is a boondoggle. I hate to say that most of us here have inherited. We were here when it started. I know it's been frustrating driving by there. It looks like a heavy equipment storage yard just sitting there, nothing happening. But and I bet if this deadline had been 6 months ago, they were just about ready to finish 6 months ago. But it is what it is. You say this is the best path forward. It looks like there's an end point in sight. So we got to bite the bullet and get it done.
45 day extension.
Yeah.
What's the date of the extension to 45 to February 15th? 14th. February 14th.
So the 45 day extension, it'd be 2/14/24 would be the end of their new contract. With a 30-day extension, it would be 1/31/24. And again, I go back into saying I will be requesting a grant extension for our 2019-2020 grant, our original, the $1.4 million grant. So that would be more in line, the 45 day would be more in line toward those 60 days for that.
This might be for administration, but in our packet, in the analysis, it says that we've asked for a 60-day extension. Is that
60 days, that was the second day. That is the TDA grant. Okay. That is just for the TDA. That is between.
So that's happened.
No, sir. That is going to go in immediately following this change order, okay, once approved or determining whatever route that y'all go on this change order. That will be an extension to the grant period. Give me your recommendation would be the 45 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
All right, I'm gonna ask another one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but provided we give them a 30-day extension, tonight, instead of a 45-day extension, and they needed another extension, they could come back to us again. They cannot.
So we're either doing 30 or we're doing 45. I can read you why out of the TDA manual, but I'll try to spare you that.
I'll totally take your word.
We're gonna get a one-time shot at that. That's basically what it is. The reasoning is I'm gonna have to write basically an entire page rundown after this, outlining the delays that we've had due to the change in the site, the archaeological dig. We had a 60-day layover for the which I do have some documentation from MC Fonseca that I would like to share with y'all, that just so I can make sure I do my due diligence. They sent me a list of different things. Some of the things that I wanted to point out that were times that we could not do construction were, we had a 60 to 90 day delay. Excuse me. Between the 4-6 and 6-14, the wet wells in production, that was a 60 days of no work. Actually, excuse me, it was closer to 70 days of no work. Wet well set in was close to 45 days, no work. Waiting on the concrete and pumps for the vault was between August 31st and 11/22. If you factor in those times of delays, that adds up to almost 4 months of delay time. I've already talked about a month and a half that had to go in for the evaluation of our environmental clearance because of DEA's request. I mean, they made us reclear the same area and it cost us 45 days. That was back in September that they were delayed. And that was just because they said we had to. So that wasn't factored into our original schedule. So that's 6 months of delays right there. I wanted to basically present that because that is the only paperwork that I have received from them. So that's all I could present on their behalf.
I have reviewed the submittal log, and they weren't overly time limited their submittals on some of the items. Typically, you allow 2 weeks, they will run 2 to 3 months. So, and I am sympathetic, but I'm not gonna oppose the motion somebody else wants to make. So,
I want to comment, but we've been through this a lot. Last couple of months, Mr. Simpson and Brady about going through the submittal log, trying to understand this. And ultimately, this is what it boils down to. Not thrilled with the timeline that MC and Fonseca has done. However, I think last 8-10 weeks, they've worked a lot better. Having said that, it's not about MC Fonseca, it's about what's best for the city. And if you're looking at, you're listening to JD Merritt, you're looking at all the information I provided you. The key here is is really to keep that grant and keep the project moving, make sure. And now we have MC Fonseca's attention and working hard. I think for us here, we really need to improve 45 days and move forward to this thing done very soon.
Want to get a motion?
Final question. The termination date of the 45 days is 2/14. 2/14. Valentine's.
Mayor, may I make a motion?
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion on new business item number 2 to approve lift station project contract extension between the city of Blanco and MC Fonseca for 45 days and on February 14th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, Valentine's Day.
Yes, sir.
All in favor of 45-day extension? All right, unanimous. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Warren, Performance Services.
Oh, yeah.
You go ahead, bro.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, council, mayor, residents of Blanco. We're really happy to introduce a company that I think is going to really help us. Performance Services. They've met them before. They put together an audit to make sure that our set up for the old meters they get replaced, and they're going to explain a little bit more about the timeline, the product, and the process. So, Chip Woods, if you want to come up and introduce your team, then.
Mayor, council, citizens of Blanco, again, my name is Chip Woods, and this is Karen Ellis. We're both with Performance Services. Good to see you guys again. We have the pleasure of working with the city and the staff to, and the committee to look at the water loss and how we can find a way to mitigate that. And so I think you'll be pleased with what we found. Especially in lieu of hearing this last discussion, because some of the things that we're gonna highlight and, make sure that are known is this is a self-funding project, it is budget neutral, and, we don't allow for change orders. So, you know, what we put together is best and final, and whatever we miss in that is wholly on us. Yep. So, part of the audit, again, it all starts with meters. Those are the little cash registers that help fund the enterprise fund. You'll see high 90% of the consumption for your water and sewer revenue comes from the 5/8 meter. And they're testing, you know, just touch about 15% off. Total water loss for the city, if you look at what's bought versus what's billed, is around 37%. We look at that average at 15. The legislation allows us to go to 98.5%. So it's about 13% that we can state is going through the meters. We want to be super conservative. What does this project look like if we take half of that? And so that's what we've done. Again, this is a bigger dive into, or deeper dive into the audit. So again, we tested a statistically relevant sample of meters. And so this gives us 90%, 10% variance confidence level that these are likely the numbers that we're going to achieve. Should be also noted that these are based on your 22 rates. So with the new rate increases are not taken into account. You'll see, you know, what was the baseline for what was tested, how it was measured. The next column is what we believe we'll get with the accuracy at 90.5%. The new technology for the meters, there's no more moving parts, so there's no degradation in consumption, or not. So the consumption will remain the same. There's no degradation in accuracy. So for the life of the meter, it'll be accurate, and it will likely be at 100%. It won't be at 98.5. But again, we're being pretty conservative with this, and so then this gives us confidence. How does this project fund?
Yeah, we don't believe we guarantee that the new accuracy will be 98.5% or better. And that's warranty for the life of the meter, which is 20 years.
So the scope of work that we're recommending is replacing all the meters. There were a couple of, I mean, we're not going to go back, but there was one of the 1.5-inch meters. Those actually tested at 98%. I don't know if anyone noticed. And that's likely because, well, I know why it's because, but there are ultrasonic static meters that have been replaced by the city or the staff for Infomart. So that's why those meters are testing at that range. But we would recommend replacing all the meters. We've put up infrastructure around the city. We've worked on bids from different meter vendors, which is the best system likely for the city. If we require 2 data collectors, we'd also we would recommend having 20 extra meters on hand for the staff to install, like for things that came up. And then we would make sure all of the lids and boxes were polymer. They're more radio friendly instead of going through a metal lid. And then and also walking the streets, talking to the staff, we do are told there are some meter boxes that are in the middle of driveways. We're going to do our level best to have those moved without tearing up too much of the property owners. And then all be done in communication and coordination with each property owner. We won't just really go change this out without guidance and approval from each of the landowners.
So the system that we're recommending is, we talk a lot of in generalities, but an AMI system means that the meters will read to those collectors, and then those reads and those alerts will come into the office. So there'll be no more manual reading of the meter where someone has to go out and read the meter. You'll get reads every day instead of 1 read a month. And then your customers will have the ability to also get alerts if they have leaks, or if there's something going on with their bill that they're not sure about, they'll be able to address that quickly and not wait that 30 to 45 days to know that something's happening with their bill.
So I've got a question. I guess basically there's a software that we're gonna have, and who's providing that, and that who's paying for that?
It's all paid by the project. So everything we're recommending will be paid by the additional revenue generated from these measures right here.
And there is a yearly annual fee to run that software. And we have included that to show you what it will cost you to run the system for the 20 years. Because you are gonna have to pay that every year. But we do show that it also self-funds.
Well, tell me about the Palladino line.
There is a.
I'm familiar with the Palladino line.
So, we have accounted for, again, because it's taken half of what we believe the revenue is. That is also enough revenue to fix that line. So
Fix or being like replace it.
Yeah.
replace it, and we found actually a regional company that is very proficient at boring.
And different
So,
springs, yeah, so they're gonna do a directional bore, lay a poly pipe across it and pull the PVC through. So just be some trenching on each side, and then they'll pull that under, so it's not laying on the dam or on top of the ground anymore.
Yeah, that's been a source point for a long time.
and then the other thing we didn't mention, but it's, I think, one of the larger drivers, number 5, it's the lead and copper survey. So the lead and copper surveys we talked about last time, that has to be submitted by October 16th. Or anything that is not turned in or submitted as unknown has to be treated as leaded material at some point. And then they just introduce a revision that 10% of those lines have to be replaced every year. It used to be 3%. So all the lines have to be replaced or some sort of remediation within a decade. So this is the first step in identifying all of those.
Not step on your toes. That survey, what's included in this, they will identify the lines on the customer side and the service side, put that into a GIS system, and then we'll have records forever on that. So.
And am I remembering correctly, is that approximately a $300,000 value or something in that ballpark?
Well, it's the simple math is $135 times the number of connections you have. So it's probably about $150,000.
Okay.
You're talking about just under 1,250 connections.
Something we would have to
That's
do.
if you do it outside of replacing the.
It's going to be included in this
Right.
program.
So we don't take the benefit of that 150,000. So if we can do it for a third of that, so let's knock a third off. And then there's the benefits of about $100,000. That's the benefit of doing the project. Graphically, this is kind of what it looks like, and this is kind of hard to read, and this is because I am not proficient with Excel and charts. So I own this, but really what you see here is the cost is slightly less than the benefit of doing the project every year. Legislation says we have to create a project is not only self-funding, but self-funds by at least $1. I think you guys are going to see pretty quickly into the project that you're going to find your savings, the benefit of doing the work is going to grossly outweigh the cost and the other associated costs with the software that we have. And then this is the projected timeline. So we are here tonight to present the investment grade audit. The actual audit that you own is a lot of pages that will be presented to the city. You know, there has to be, we are saying this already. We put together the audit. Once the city hires the third party auditor to go through the review and stamp it, and then we're ready to go. I have December 31st on here because I think we collectively had the end of the year to either make a decision or not. January 1st, the rates likely change. All of our quotes from subcontractors and the meter vendors are all dated with an expiration of the end of the year because they're gonna have price increases. Last year, some were as high as 20%, it's a little bit egregious, but we said COVID would change the supply chain. We don't expect that to be the case, but we can mitigate all of that if, you guys like what you hear, like what you see, and the third party auditor stamps it. Because that protects you guys, but also protects us to make sure we're not making any bad decisions or if we miss something clear. And then you'll see, with that starts the software integration. We work on an interface file with your billing vendor. We immediately place orders by December 31st on any hardware project or product, and then we have a client kickoff meeting. We anticipate the lead time on at least the meters and the leak detection come in April or probably, it says March. April may be more likely, but it's where I've got both those dates in there. And then we expect to be closed out by September. And that would be for every one of those recommended scope of work.
So in the interim, there's a hybrid system. There's still meter reading taking place, and then they'll have it all figured out how to navigate that.
We work with the staff to figure out which routes and, try to go behind so that there's no double work on the staff.
The next two slides are pretty redundant. This gives us a chance to kind of pound our chest. I mentioned a list of references, and then the gentleman came up and said, "Yeah, I called all of them," and they got nailed out. But you guys are our number one focus. So, again, we don't offer change orders. We guarantee the performance. We guarantee the results, and we guarantee no change orders. There's zero cost, and there's one back-to-pack, one throat to choke. So, I mean, hopefully we're shaking hands and patting backs.
So you're saying we don't have to have a 45-day extension on it, sir?
No, sir. I promise you I will not be out of here. So, so again, just to reiterate, zero upfront cost.
This is OJ's recommendation.
Yeah.
This is his slides.
Yeah, this is increased revenue, and when I stood here last time, I know infrastructure is a hot button for the city. The leak detection is the first step in identifying where we need to prioritize where that happens. The way we model the financing to show the cash flow is just to appease or qualify with the legislation, but it's going to provide so much more revenue for the city that you're going to be able to whether it's the CIP, some of that extra work is likely going to be funded out of these little cash registers. So, and then I've got on here the owner discretionary allowance. We've added $150,000. Typically, the legislation allows us to do about 25% on that number, 25% of the project. We felt that $150,000 is healthy enough to maybe tackle the generators at the
If you don't get the grant.
Right. It's for the city to use, or the city doesn't have to use it. Mr. Moses, in construction, a lot of times there's change orders, there's maybe, and I'm not suggesting that you have high, this is the, not to exceed, but the other word, contingency. We're not carrying a massive contingency where if we didn't use that $150,000, then it just eats up our margin. We're carving that out and say that whatever the city wants to use this for, they're more than welcome to, or they don't have to use it at all. So that's just another part of the project that we're able to do because of how, depending on how you look at it, how the meters perform.
Now, it is worth pointing out that the meters perform so the cash registers, that's effectively raising the water bills of everybody in town you install these.
It is. It is. But it's just equitable.
And for the weather.
No, I get it. No, I understand.
But
It's
then
just,
it's like
we
you are
just
just-
raised
if you
rates
have a-
and
yeah.
this will be another.
If you have a meter that's not registering as it should, then yeah, they're gonna see it.
With the customer portal, we're gonna help the staff with the outreach, we have a marketing team that will help with crafting what that language might look like, whether we want to put on, or what, again, it'll be content for the city to use, however they want to put it out, bill inserts online, things like that.
No, I am curious with the residential meters of 5/8, it was like 85% average accuracy. What are the upper and lower, but I mean, are there some people that are only getting half their water counted, or, I mean, what was the lowest on that?
0. But zero would be.
I mean, from what you actually measured, what you know what our,
We actually had 3 or 4 that did not measure at all, so we're just getting a minimum bill, basically.
wow. So there's some people are gonna be in for a big shock.
Well, it won't be massive, because their bill's not like these.
It's not zero,
It's
it's
gonna be
Yeah,
a
no, I
number
get it.
bill,
No, I get it. I
but
get it.
if they know the grass is really green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In July and August, and then they're gonna say, oh, wow, this is what, okay, so how much am I using?
I
The
understand.
grass might not be so green, maybe in August now.
Yeah.
Well, and Mary, you know, we're properly charging for the consumption and the increase, there's an increase there. Yeah, we do still have the ability to tweak our new rate if we find that we're generating too much revenue.
That's one of the things we talked about too, with the committee is when you put the new meters in, they are guaranteed to get that accuracy for 20 years. So when you're looking at rates in the future, you're basing your rates on an accurate meter. Because now you're basing your rates on a meter that's not performing and it's gonna keep going down, and so you have to keep raising your rates.
So one thing that has emerged through this rate increase, people getting shocked, there was a woman that called just up here up Con Street. Her bill went from $79 to like $1,100 because the city thought she had a 3-inch meter for a little mobile home. And it wouldn't look, it was 5/8 inch. I don't know the amount, but I know there's I've gotten another call from somebody in a similar situation that does not have the size meter that the city thinks. So when you go to do the replacements,
Absolutely.
You'll have
So
everything correct.
every service address will have a lat and long, so to Damon's point, the GIS will be cleaned up. They'll have the size, there'll be a before picture and after picture. There's also gonna be the line survey, so they're gonna know line type on both sides. Whether it's, identified, it'll be identified and taken visually, but also check the line type on both sides within, I think it's 6 inches of the meter. So they're not gonna be encroaching well into the homeowner's properties or the service address.
Our meter size records are very minimal. We've gotten better over the last year, but still a lot of room for improvement. And this will help resolve that issue completely. And then they can relay that information to fund you so they can accurately update it on their rate structure.
I've got a question. If you're swapping out meters and you go to a house and it's on our records, it's 5/8. But it turns out it's a 2.
Mhm.
Do you replace it with a 2, or do you open a dialogue and find out if they need a 2 and can reduce it back down to where it was? How's that happen?
It's not our call, it'll be through the city. So we would identify that and say, this raises a flag and how do you guys want?
But you notify the city before you replace it with another 2.
Yes.
Okay.
And we provide the lowest meter that's allowed for the volume of water they're trying to get.
Right. Let's say what's different.
And again, we talked about this last time. This is the legislation I speak of. And then the TIPS contract is similar to a buy order or something like that. So this is the vehicle that allows, one of them in which, keeps us between the lines, and then the other one is the contract that we leverage to do these. That is it.
You've got one more.
Yeah,
That's the
that's,
cash flow thing. They want to show that.
yeah.
Y'all can go ahead and show that if you want, if they want to.
You have any questions?
Mayor, I have a question. Yes, sir. So are y'all like brokers and then I'll find
We're
the
kind
meter
of
service.
like a GC. So you are, mhm.
And like the meter infrastructure pick, is that based upon what the subcontractor uses or does the client pick what?
Interview,
They
yep.
pick? Okay.
The city picked the meter that we're using is, not just an AMI meter, it also has the distribution side leak protection built within the meter. So,
No, they're very smart. They're helping folks find it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Warren, the action if we go forward would be to authorize you to sign the contract, so we can be effectively pulling.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions?
Yes. Yes, there's the full estimated contract price on it. You know.
Yep, we do. So it's actually, that was the last one on there. It's the big eye chart. We were at 1.5, I think we were 1.5, we added the, $150,000. And, yeah, 1.75. So the addition from when we were last year is the $150,000 for discretionary allowance, which is, this is worst case scenario and it only goes down depending on how that ODA is used.
so this is showing using 6% recovered accuracy. Your water loss right now is at about 27. So we know that over the.
Cash flow, net cash flow in the right bottom corner.
Yes, so that'll be the surplus cash flow after the project's paid for. So over 20 years, the city can see an additional 1.2. We feel like that'll go up because we feel like the accuracy can go up more than 6%.
Yeah, so we think it's gonna be likely 2x.
Any more questions? So the motion would be to pull the trigger. Entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we authorize the city administrator to contract with Performance Services, Inc. to provide the city with the work in accordance with Texas Local Government Code 302 procurement through TIPS contract number 170103 contingent upon third party auditor and legal approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
I just like to say, I think it's a great project. I did want to second though the conversation about increasing water bills right after our rate increase. Just want to make sure we do review our rate increase often after this, after the new year.
Excellent. Thank you. We amended.
I can amend the motion to include that to take place after 8 months, 9 months.
Well, I'd like to do it sooner if possible, and I know we do have to give it a few months to do what it needs to do, but I'd like to do that as soon as possible. And so I don't want to I'd be hesitant to put a.
Within 6 months.
That'd be great.
I would think September of next year, we'll start seeing some of the meters start coming across.
Right now, we're expecting.
August, September.
We'll see.
I think we cross that bridge when we get there.
You'll have all your meters in maybe till the end of September, then you're kind of getting into the alarm. So definitely we'll look at it again after the first next year.
I just want to reiterate what Councilmember Swenson and Mayor Arnold have
I won't let the
suggested.
motion stand, stand the way it was.
Yeah, so there's a motion and a second to approve the warrant to execute the contract. All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Everybody doing good? We don't need a pipe break or anything? Anything else cool? Okay, number 4, amended contract for has 7 employee dedicated street repair.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, local residents. So I'm going to give you some background there. When I first came here, I identified first 2 or 3 things that really had to happen. We looked at dealing with financial issues, and the balance of the budget, and then taking a look at our software system to make sure that we instituted a good financial program. Because that's how it starts. Right before I got here, Infomart had, you as a council looked at hiring Infomart. And even though we didn't approve that until March of 2022, the system was in place prior. So what happens is when we agreed to hire them, they took over, having a public works department, and we obviously dealt with a lot of different specific issues in providing both sewer, water services, utility, and there was a little bit of a idea of having just some light maintenance, mowing, those sort of things taken care of. Time came on, and what an administrator has to do is the administrator has to actually look at what the citizens are and what citizens actually request. And so through that time, what I've heard a lot of citizens ask for basically street maintenance. So we started to try to figure out how to do that in an economical manner. I think this last summer, we had some different ideas on how to fund the budget, looking at specifically filling potholes, but not just filling potholes. You're talking street repair. You're also talking about more maintenance at our park, also talking about mowing, and also going through the right of ways and making sure they're clear. Also, we haven't had much rain. Eventually, those drainage ways are getting clogged now when you mow and things like that, and garbage taken out of it, because all we need is 3 or 4 inches in a couple hours, and you're just going to see a flash flood. So we want to look at doing all those things. So I got with Damon. Damon got with his boss. Want to look at some creative ways of trying to do this, try to help the city in an economical manner. And then, and so what I think you have a cover letter here that kind of explains it, but maybe doesn't quite explain what we're looking at. But what is being proposed is that Infomark will absorb, I think we clean up anything I'm saying wrong, would absorb for this first year, which would, let's say, starts in January, and goes through the end of September. So I think that'll be 8 months of absorbing 7th employee for free to sit. Okay? And that employee will be doing those different things and talking. And then after that, or probably this summer, we'll have to look at ways to fund that employee if that's what you want to do.
It would be the 40,000, and we would cover the other half of the employee. So the city would pay the 40,000 that y'all had set aside budgeted towards the base fee. We would hire the person and we would make up the difference. And then in October, we would have a discussion again to fully fund, for the city to fully fund that employee.
Okay. I also want to head off a couple of questions here. I've heard talking to the councilors, talking to people in the public. Well, how does one person actually do street maintenance? And that is where I want Dane to kind of explain the team program and how that one person, because right now you don't really have one person dedicated to doing those different things I said, street repair, clean up the right of ways, doing mowing. So how would that work with how you do the team program?
So ideally, one person would be fully dedicated to emergency calls for carcass removal, things of that nature. Constantly working on the streets, constantly working on clearing the right of ways, constantly mowing potholes. And then on the days that I am, if we have like a big job, or I have crews that are not indisposed, they would join that one employee to knock out more work. But ideally we'd have one person just dedicated with the dump truck, cold mix, equipment, and they just go around filling potholes. And what I propose to Warren is basically break up the city into different zones. And they focus on zone 1. And when they're done with that, they move to zone 2. And then by the time they're done with however many zones I've distinguished, then they start back over. So the city's constantly being potholes, because we know potholes don't stay refilled for more than 6 months. So we're just constantly going over and making sure those are being filled. We understand it's not the quote unquote right way to fill a pothole, but it keeps your front end in line and it does make the roads drivable.
with the proposed new meters, we're gonna have a reduction of time required by your staff for the meter reading. Could you clarify how much that is a month or how many days a month?
Yeah, so right now, I figured we're spending 56 hours a month reading meters. That's one employee, about a week and a half a month roughly, 17 weeks a year. So, because while we're reading meters, we're also fixing leaks. We're pulling off to go take care of this, do that. So, but if you're just strictly focused on reading meters, that takes about 56 hours. So by doing this project with the meter reading, what that does is that allows us to spend full time doing everything else, leak repair, taps, road maintenance, easements, building maintenance, things of that nature. So it allows us to focus more on the things you see, if you will, taking care of those.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but we did this trial for a year. That would end about the same time as these new meters would be coming online. We might not have as many leakage, we certainly have meters, we could readjust at that point whether it's necessary to have the seventh person. That perhaps it won't be necessary then.
We can have that conversation, Mr.
And so if we do put in the 40,000 and y'all put in the extra, is there any obligation that he's hired again after our next budget season?
That would be the there's no guarantee. Short answer is no. Long answer is if we find a good employee, of course you want to keep them. But it's not a guarantee for that employee if the city decides that they don't want to do that anymore. And then
I've got a question. Well, right now, we're being billed for I guess, a cost increase that we didn't have in our budget.
That's true.
And, but we're not funding that at this time. And that's probably $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
Look, let me give you the exact numbers and I will tell you how it is being funded. So it actually ends up being $54,000 a year, the CPI that was not in our budget.
Right.
And we will have to do a budget amendment to show that. However, on rough numbers, we had budgeted an increase, this is real transparent, we had looked at an increase of 17%, this utility increase. It ended up being about 7 to 8% more than what we thought. So instead of being a 7% increase, now I know that you as council don't want to look at that, but with the preliminary number that I have, conservatively, we're getting an additional $187,000 that we didn't have in the budget of additional revenue. So we do have more than enough to cover that 54. Even if you adjust it down, we still have enough. So yes, the answer is we did not have that budgeted, but we do have that covered based on the current utility rate that you just approved a couple months ago. So we 54,000, but I'm projecting about $187,000 above that 17%.
What about materials for this project?
So based on my estimations, from previous, I'm thinking the material is going to run about $5,000 a month for the amount of potholes that we need to fill.
That's because we're using the cold day.
Right. The hot mix is actually more per cubic yards. The cold mix, it has a month shelf life basically once we get it. So when we get it, we've got to get rid of it. And that's why we're not really ordering it and putting it out. I ordered it in basically totes and we distribute that. And one tote, I can get rid of a tote in a week if I have just focus on it. And then a dump truck is about 6 totes, roughly. So I figure that's about a month's worth of stuff and it costs right at $5,000. Now, once we get all the potholes filled and then we're maintaining them, of course that cost is going to go down.
Are you gonna be doing any saw cutting, cleaning up before you fill them, or just dumping it in?
Basically, we just come in, we just, sweep them out, get all the rocks, all the loose stuff out. The material that we use, it goes in it's not like regular cold mix where it's kind of has the adhesive material. This comes out of the ground with natural basic stuff. They don't add a bunch of stuff to it. So it goes in kind of like sand, if you will. It moves around real easy, and once you drive on it, it packs hard. It doesn't push out like normal stuff is, because the problem is with normal cold mix, it has the adhesion and materials and stuff. So as you drive over it, that stuff pushes out of the hole where this doesn't. This actually goes into the hole instead of pushing out.
In a lot of places, the edges of the roads are eroding. We just take care of that too, and it seems like that's a little more than filling potholes, but our roads are getting narrower.
We would edge with the best that we could. Of course, there will need to be some better ways to do that. Depending on what kind of staff I get, as to how advanced they can work. My thoughts are, I've come in with a backhoe, scrape the edge of the road down on about 6 inches, fill with road base, and then put cold mix over that. That would help some. That would be ideally the best way to do it. But we could do some road base or something for now, just to keep the project moving forward. But those are things, edging is something that we might look at later. To be done right, it would probably need a contractor and hot mix, but roads are very complicated.
Well, it's our number one complaint.
And most towns under 10,000, that is the number one complaint, because that's the place where funds are never available for.
Well, I guess, Warren, as I'm looking at this, if we've got $54,000 that we're gonna possibly take out of the increased revenue, so we've got $80,000 for an employee, and then you got $60,000 for material, we're at $194,000.
Well, let's clarify that, because I was under the impression the 80,000 included some materials. Is that true or not?
Yeah, so let's break this down.
Okay, $20 an hour employee, times 1.8%, comes out about $75,000 a year roughly. And then,
That's salary and benefits?
that's salary and benefits.
I would need to be a little bit lower.
Do we know what the base salary is? I think everybody wants.
20
an
an
hour. Okay, yeah, make it look at that.
So for an officer with benefits is right around 74.75. That's a little bit higher. I think it's gonna be a little, well, the y'all give benefits, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, our benefits are probably more expensive.
Yeah.
So where does the materials come from?
Those will be charged to the maintenance. That's all right.
We already have. We already have a maintenance cap, we charge to that.
Yeah, and that's what we're charging materials to now.
Now,
Explain that to me.
well, first of all, I want you all to understand something. We're talking about the additional materials because we're actually putting them in the ground. But there's still a need right now, whether you approve this or not, we're still working on trying to get some of the potholes filled. But in order for us to actually get arms around it, that this is a creative way to try to do that. So I guess the estimate of materials, what do we talk about? $40,000 a year?
12 times 5, roughly.
You really think it's gonna be that much?
The first year for sure. So we get, so about another 60,000 a year.
We're just asking.
So right now we bill it towards the maintenance cap. So in the contract, we have a maintenance cap. It's 18,800 a month roughly. And what that does is that anything that we use material wise, supplies for leak caps, etc., goes to the maintenance cap because that's material and stuff that belongs to the city. So if the maintenance cap goes over at the end of the year, then the city is responsible to pay that back to us.
Okay. We right at the maintenance cap. Right there.
So we can't consider that.
So it will effectively be another $60,000 bill to the city for materials.
Yes.
And do we have that anywhere in the budget?
presently.
Presently, presently, we have reserves. We also have, guys, I'm trying to find a way. I'm getting hammered all the
No, I
time.
get it. I do appreciate that. You know, you guys have been really obsessed to find a solution as well.
Right. Right now, like I said, we have it. If we look at the overage, like I said.
So I want to just better understand what's on the table. Infomark is offering to fully fund this 7th position, prorated through the end of next year to our budget.
So
Budget cycle.
the way we're proposing it is the city has $40,000 set aside for the year. And so basically that 40,000 would be added to the base fee per month, whatever it comes out to. And then at the end of, during the budget process, we'll carry the 35,000, the city's gonna pay the 40,000 from now till the budget cycle. And then when the budget cycle comes back around, then we'll have discussions about the city possibly fully funding the employee and then Infomark no longer carrying their hat. We put our heads together, we tried to come up with a way where because we know it wasn't budgeted. So we were trying to figure out some way that we could fill a need with the city to fill potholes and still not fully carry the employee on our side.
So let me break this out. Between January and the end of September, you're looking at $5,000, that's 45,000. So for this first year, to the end of the fiscal year, we're looking at 45,000 additional, plus that. $40,000 we're bringing in January. We have an additional, from the water sewer budget, from the enterprise, we have an additional 187,000, 154, and you're at 133. So that's where we'd have to take it.
Right now, we're doing what we can, even though it's not in our contract, if you will. Our contract states that we do light road maintenance in relation to leaks and taps. But we try to do what we can with what we've got, if you will. So that's why we were trying to figure out, if we just had one guy, that was his only job, was filling potholes, trimming trees, mowing easements, then that would free up it would take care of the problems of potholes in the city, basically.
So $20 an hour, that's just under 39,000 a year for the base salary, yeah. And then benefits on top of that, which would grow.
Our benefit multiplier is 1.8.
So $20 times 2080, I think it's 42 something like that. So if you're talking about a little under $43,000 base salary. And then benefits, I would probably be about 65, but whatever number you guys are saying. It is a market for you, not a city.
So just help me out with the math. What roughly benefits and salary, where are we on this guy?
Roughly 75.
Okay. And then the additional 5,000, of this 80,000, that's the first 5,000 towards supplies or materials? Is that?
Where are you getting the?
There's 80,000.
That was just a rough figure. It's actually.
I'm just going by whatever.
Yeah, it's actually 75,000. We knew the city was going to provide the 40, and we just was figuring. I think we took into account. I think we added. I don't know what we did. It's around 75,000. I'm not sure. I think 80 was the number.
Basically, Infomark is willing to fund 35,000 towards 75,000. We would be using our 40,000 that's already budgeted. And then at the end of 9 months, we reset and we have to figure out, the city would have to figure out where the 75,000 comes from, plus materials. We have a budget for materials.
So that's a benefit.
We already have a dump truck.
Infomark bought a dump truck, yes.
So is that included in that figure or?
No, so this is not included. We're carrying the cost of the dump truck.
Your furniture, the dump truck.
And we know there's not enough in the Inframark maintenance, allocation to fund this if we're using that already every month. So, and I love the idea because we have a position to do something that's needed and it would be managed through Inframark, which was something we were lacking with some of our earlier proposals. There was no management. I love the idea. It needs to be done.
I think I would rather pay to have somebody do this than to be repairing somebody's transmission that falls out after he's hit one of our potholes and sues the city. Don't give him any ideas.
So we would have to look at funding for next year, and that's part of the funding problem.
I mean, is it feasible? I mean, we've identified the need. We just really have to figure out how we're gonna pay for it. Is it feasible to have a part-time employee cut this by half, and that we half as much material goes down, and where that budget for the whittling material, we're at 100 and.
We talked about that internally, and I'm sure as you're well, and people that's dealt with employees, finding a part-time employee that's beneficial is a lot harder than finding a full-time employee that's beneficial.
With your company, is there a possibility you could assign him here half the time and somewhere else half the time?
We're not really close enough to anybody to do that. Because the Inframark in Austin is a different division of ours, so we couldn't really share employees with them. I can call on them if I need an electrical issue or if I need a maintenance crew for like big projects, I could use them for that, but they don't really share employees.
I appreciate your creativity and stepping up to put this together.
It's a challenge, and
This is the most efficient way I've seen to get work started and get somebody out there every day filling potholes. I think that would be, I don't think you might have a complaint about that.
Hard to say no to 35,000, but we do have this CPI number floating out there too.
I guess I feel like if we have this person, I would want him again next year. We don't have to lay anyone off. I feel like I have to already know our budget for next year to take this into account. And to me, I would at least need more time to think about that.
Well, and again, I love the idea, but when we first contracted with Inframark, and I wasn't on council, but I was in meetings as a citizen, there were some things that we didn't specifically put in the contract that we should have, and that's kind of what's brought us to this moment. So I want to be very careful if we amend the contract that it is thoroughly vetted by city council.
This amendment does it.
It does.
Does what they're proposing. So you're talking about an 8-month amendment for this fiscal year. So
Everything we're hearing from everybody so far about the enterprise is that we haven't yet seen the upside from the recent rate change, which we know is going to be measurable. And then by the end of this cycle, if we do this, we're also going to have the new meters in, we'll see increased income from that. So I think on the enterprise fund side, we're on a good track to be able to start from the potholes.
Yeah, I think you are.
No, but this gets this there.
you know, I mean, then, you know, we worked hard to get us in the red. I mean, black, I've been in the red. So to get us in the black, and I'm gonna hold to that commitment to, if we can figure out how to pay for it, then it'd be palatable, but, you know, we've had there's always hiccups all the way down the road, and I think if we don't get stabilized with and start building our reserves, we're not gonna be healthy.
And we still, so again, the 35,000 is great, but that leaves a difference of 19,000 from the 54,000 CPI that we did budget for. So we still have 19,000 hanging out there. That's
well, that's a different bucket, so it's all.
Well, I don't know, in my mind, it's all.
I mean, if you take the 54, the 80, and the 60, you're at 194. You know, then they're going to participate we're gonna apply 40,000 of our funds, and then they're gonna put in 35, so that gets us down to 119, you're right. So,
It seems to me that people that are all of a sudden paying a lot more for water bills, be nice for them to see measurable, noticeable improvement as a result.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, I have an issue conflating. When I charge people for water, I think it should be for water and water infrastructure. As a customer, that's what I expect. So I don't want to conflate this with that.
This is enterprise.
Well, so I am gonna say this. This is one idea. If this is an idea that you don't think financially can work, then we'll try another one. But I do think we're, at some point, again, you know, we certain amount of dollars to go around, so you're just trying to be good steward of that, I understand that. So, if you want the administrator to look at it a different way, or look at it in a more cost-effective way, but I think this is about as close as you're gonna get.
I'm not objectionable to the fees or the cost, it's just, we don't have a wallet to get it out of that I'm comfortable with at this point. Maybe there's another way.
So maybe you have it this year, maybe you don't have it next year, but we'd have to work on that this summer.
Are there any, infrastructure grants? I know there've been a lot of federal monies out there for infrastructure. I don't know how.
So there's generally grants for water and sewer for those type of projects. We're gonna go after them. It generally isn't for streets. I'm kind of speaking generally, so don't, if someone throws something at me, but generally not for streets, but it usually is for water. and sewer.
There's also, we didn't talk about in detail, the $150,000 allowance in that meter contract that would, it's supposedly going to the enterprise fund to be able to use anything in that area.
I think we have it for this, I think we have it for this year. And yes, you're right, the 24, 25 years being nice.
Well,
Don't worry about that now.
and we can get past the numbers. I mean, I do like the idea that a pilot program. If you think about it as a pilot program and think about, does this work? One employee with a mandate to fill potholes, clear right away, manage by Mark. I would like to see how this works, if it works, since I'd like it to work.
And then by the end of that cycle, with the new meters in place, it'll be a different world. I mean, a lot of those leaks are caused, the bottles are caused by water leaks that should be addressed. They'll have more manpower available and more funds at the end of it. So this is a good pilot program.
And this isn't just potholes and then it's also street signs, stop signs. I mean, it covers this, his sole focus is going to be basically everything you can see. That's going to be his sole job. Because our contract doesn't include street signs. Of course, we do it as we can, but I mean, this fully encompasses everything on the right of ways and the easements.
And we're already up at 40,000.
Right. I just, again, some of the lack of vetting of this contract, which I just want to refer to, I just want to make sure that we amend it. That's well vetted.
Yeah, Tim is part of that. So seems like we might not have a unanimous vote, but it's probably worth taking a vote. If somebody wants to make a motion to do this, we'll see where it falls.
I got a question.
Okay.
How much, so we have 40,000 for street maintenance. How much, if we just hired someone and did 40,000 worth of potholes, what would that look like? And then also, is there, I know it's like correct street repair is really expensive. So how much would 40,000 get us fully repaired?
So I'm going to answer the last part of your question, and it doesn't answer the first part of your question. We spent about $243,000 to do it the correct way, the saw cutting, milling, these pipe milling, and that was COVID money, so that was allowed. You want to say what $40,000 actually?
Well, that would have to be lawn mowing, right away mowing. That's what it was.
We're talking.
Well, and for instance, I called the city because, there was a bunch of limbs in Town Creek recently that I just knew if we ever got a rain again, it would really electrical issue and the implement cleared it, but there's other things too, right? But on the,
But we had to pull off and operating, or a couple operators off. This is the problem.
right, I
We
understand.
don't really, they do just light maintenance and light work like that, but there's, you know, a lot of times stuff is, it's a lot.
They did exactly that, so everybody else could work.
Yeah, 40,000 in my recollection in the budget, it's actually for right of way mowing, is it not?
Right away mowing, pothole.
But that's what it says.
Yeah, that's what it says. That's what it says.
This is gonna sound trite, but is public bathroom maintenance specifically addressed in this contract?
That's in the old contract.
Okay,
Yeah,
and would this individual would that be part of his
there
charge?
should be an individual already taking care of that. He's got his 80 off and signs. But if the restrooms are ever not to par, I need to know immediately because I don't check them every day, but by God, somebody better do.
I want to step up and make this motion.
I'd like to table it till next time. But maybe we can find a magic wand, whatever, but, I'm not really disappointed. That'd be my most take this till January.
No alternative, no one wants to make the motion to do it.
Do we need a second to
Take a vote to table it.
Call for a second. on that.
Okay, second on the tabling motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of tabling to next month? Okay, motion is tabled. Number 5. What do you want here?
Yeah, I did. I'd like to ask council to table this. This is a motion that I drafted. We've got lots of words, legal words. But we've got moving target on the escrow provisions of this proposed motion. We've got a moving that has not, the terms of which has not yet been nailed down, but I'm comfortable with y'all authorizing that yet. Also, as you know, there is ongoing dialogue with the state, Texas Park and Wildlife and the park. I have very high confidence. I will tell you that we will successfully eventually get this money, $100,000. But it's a moving target with the state on what they want. They've expressed some interest in conservation easements and other ideas, and that's kind of a moving target right now. So I'd like to table this till next month and come back to you. Remember that last month you already authorized an extension of the existing escrow for 6 months. So we'll get that done, have that safety net, and I'll come back with this next month.
Okay.
We need to, do we need to make a motion?
Motion to the table.
Motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table new business number 5.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Then I will accuse.
Four yes, three. Okay, number 6, so this was just a discussion warrant for the.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, council, citizens. This is a discussion item. I know there's a couple council members that want to just kind of talk about, possible leak route and maybe that there isn't really need for that right now, but that was a agenda item just in case anyone on council wants to statement or so much.
And we have an executive session.
Well, we need to put that executive session.
Do we have a statement or questions at this point?
Maybe just to reiterate that the city has officially said we have not taken any stance on any relief.
The city has not taken any, you know, any opinion on this. It's not great.
Anybody else? I will recognize you, Ken.
Could we get an update on the meeting that was gonna happen yesterday and the task force meeting that did occur for the people that weren't there?
Meeting that was gonna happen yesterday?
I mean Thursday,
Thursday.
and the task force meeting that occurred last week.
Okay, I'll give a brief summary of what transpired regarding the 14th. Local business leader, the branch manager of the bank here. So happens that at their headquarters, and one of their executives was recently appointed as a commissioner to the desktop. And on his own initiative, out of the goodness of his heart, this branch manager invited that gentleman to come to town and meet us. It had nothing to do with timing regarding any particular project. It was just a good hearted effort to help raise the position of Blanco in the eyes of this commissioner and make this introduction. A PR thing, handshake. I love Blanco. Considering the timing of it all, we thought best to announce that we might have a possible quorum with the invited city council, invite the transportation committee, invite the county commissioners to that. The request was to keep it as small and non-political as possible. Again, just a meet and greet. This guy's new. He's not going to have any answers to any specific questions anyway. It was just here's Blanco. We love you. We love you, handshake thing. Apparently some people in the community took exception to us approaching it that way. I even got a text from the state senators, saying people were calling there complaining that we're doing this secret meeting, which was posted publicly for a quorum. But the downside, if we made a bad impression, was great. And the safest course was to cancel the meeting. So I'm ashamed of our community for being so petulant that we couldn't even have a guy come down here and shake his hand and be nice for 5 minutes together. But there was so much animosity just saying we're having a meeting stirred up that we had to cancel. So that's the update.
And the task force meeting that we did hold, that you chair.
That was last month, right?
Yeah, but tomorrow. No, we had that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I guess, the update is that we met, agreed to meet again in January. Specifically, I think we had some good discussion about what the routes are and just looking at different criteria. I think the biggest question that we're gonna look at, and again, I'll say my opinion is that we're not gonna have all the answers yet, and I understand that there's a lot of questions coming up. But the biggest thing from my talk with Joe Muck, who's our area engineer, is they want to look at a give back program on 281 to make it Main Street. So a lot of the questions, and some of the questions I think the Transportation and Planning Committee will need to start answering is what does that look like? What do we want to see? And obviously the big question is the financials. Can the city afford that? Or can we have TxDOT give it back to us in a way in which we can? So there's a lot of those questions. I know we're not even close to even framing how we answer those, and that's why you have a committee of the public.
Yeah, the meeting was, you were there, but mostly just asking questions. The position being that we're waiting for TxDOT to say what the route will be, then we as a city need to stand together and say how we want to interact with that. One of the discussions was, if it's east of town, do we want to exit at 165? That would change the whole dynamic of traffic in town. And so the committee would look at how we interact with the route wherever it ends up being. And then also, if we want to take back 281, what that looks like and how we can afford it.
Can somebody, I think for members of the audience, can somebody, and I'm not going to be the one to do it necessarily, but enumerate exactly what the mandate is of this newly formed or newly named committee, because I think that's important for people to understand what the committee is tasked with doing. And I think of one person in the audience that might be able to do that.
Probably not gonna be me,
Mr. Welch.
I just want everybody, I can't answer the questions, but my recollection in the meeting was our next meeting, we were gonna talk about the mission of the transportation.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Because
And
it's
also
changed,
talk
but
about-
it
is not to choose a route.
No,
Well, I know, but I think the public needs to be aware of that.
That's why I asked, yes, it's.
Oh, the whole question.
But that route, whatever it is or isn't, it's gonna totally dramatically change the flow of traffic in town. So, we have, yes, sir, right?
I just want to make sure that I did hear Zach's statement correct, that whatever this route is or is not is still feasible, because it was being heavily marketed as this is coming regardless. So I just want to make sure that I'm hearing that.
Sure, yeah, no, I said that on purpose, yeah.
Okay.
I also want to mention that there's going to be a separate component, which is there is the walkability component that is going to be a subcommittee. I don't know if Councilman Switzer wants to kind of explain that a little bit.
I mentioned one thing before that, and if I'm out of turn, somebody will correct me, but I also think it needs to be understood that I don't think this is no longer a bypass. TxDOT is building a highway. They'll plow through us or they'll take an alternate route, but they are looking to actively divert traffic from 35, as I understand it. So I don't know.
35% of the traffic from I-35, they want to.
So this idea that we've chosen a route, or that we have said yes to a bypass, I don't think that's the case.
Well, we did endorse it.
We endorsed it officially on the record.
I believe so.
I believe we did endorse it, having
Okay.
And that was based on projections from TxDOT of the throughput of traffic that they're projecting starting in 2030, when they expand 281 up the north and south. The throughput on my Uptown Cafe is gonna blow your socks off. It will be, according to not me, that's what the city heard. So that's why this has been considered at the beginning.
Yeah, we're just a gnat from the big picture of this thing. I-35 is the busiest trade route in the history of the world. And it's now congested to the point that they're looking to a parallel route to shift. They say 30 to 35% of that traffic over to 281. That would be total meltdown gridlock trying to funnel that through town. The reason it's one lane down there, Brian, is so that it doesn't have that backlog here at the light on the square. They try to funnel it down so it dribbles through, is my understanding.
No. Police chief gave us a great explanation on that last week as to why we have lights and extra lanes. It does help us flow of traffic. A single lane of traffic, that's not why they're dribbling that down.
Any more conversation?
Yeah, I think came up in public comments, but TxDOT is not requiring us to make a decision to have a preference. Is that correct? Or we can if we want to, but we don't have to.
Which is, yeah, and they're also not requiring any funding from us. Correct. As well, which again is.
Has anybody made a comment to the public that they are not going to require that the city make 10%?
That's been stated. I've stated
I've
that
not seen it
publicly. I've stated
anywhere.
that publicly, I believe, in a meeting, we can look it up, but yeah. And it hasn't been officially told. I was told that it's most likely we won't have to pay. I haven't been told definitively, but that was
It hasn't been official.
Excuse me?
It has been made official.
I haven't been told officially that we're not on the hook for a portion of this, but I was told that we could expect that was what was going to happen.
Can I just make a recommendation?
Sure.
Whenever you have a meeting to discuss this, speaking on behalf of the petulant people that don't trust what's going on, can you just make it be known that there's going to be a discussion with the TxDOT official, and anybody that wants to be there can be there instead of trying to, because I've got, Mayor, I'm sorry, but I've got emails where you're going to assign a committee and you're going to have them do exactly what you want them to do. And if they don't do what you want them to do, you're not going to call that committee. So, how are we supposed to have trust that this thing isn't going to be railroaded? That's my concern. I think you ran on transparency. I think you ought to keep the transparency.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anything else? Yes, one more point.
We also talked about the wheel and feed or
And I think there's a meeting called for that, is they're trying to establish it.
Yeah, the first meeting will be Thursday at 6 p.m. here. I hope that one, we'll discuss the goals of the committee and the project, but I hope that one of the first ones will be to map out where the pedestrian route should be. We actually have an old map from the old, we'll see that in Google.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on. Number 7, Ryan, this one's in your court here.
Right. Well, this issue has to deal with our corner right out here at Fourth and Pecan. It has to do with the project that TxDOT undertook to redo the ADA compliant ramps and everything out there. 2 issues that were taken with that is the project did not achieve prior approval through the Historic Commission or the Streetscape Committee at the time. They did not coordinate with the Streetscape Committee, which was already in progress, making a plan for the sidewalks and everything on that corner. So procedure wasn't followed properly. On top of that, since the project was completed, it's on that TxDOT's project and has caused flooding problems and flooding in our local businesses here that did not occur before that project was done. We've had much heavier rains in the past. The flooding in business was not occurred. So our Historic Commission authored a letter to TxDOT, A, stating what they felt they did wrong, B, asking them, TxDOT, what are you going to do to fix this? TxDOT verbally responded to City of Blanco leadership that they would be happy to fix anything that needs to be fixed with that project. And what they have asked of us is to provide them our plan of what we would like that corner to look like, as well as the proper plan to mitigate the flooding that's occurring in the project. So what I'm seeking tonight is there's 2 steps that we need to achieve in order to move this project forward. We need a very detailed topographical survey of the 4-way corner so that that survey can be then passed on to our architect of the project, and they can work with the civil engineer to work a proper design up to that corner to A, match the visual look of what we're trying to achieve with our streetscape program, and B, resolve and mitigate the flooding issue that new corner has posed for our citizens and business owners. We need 2 portions of money to get this done. And what I'm seeking is $2,500 to cover the fee for the topographical survey required to do it. That's all I'm seeking tonight. In the near future, I will be seeking another $2,500 to pay the architect for construction plans of that 4-way corner. Bad news is that's an unbudgeted expense that I did not want to bring to the city council to try to find a way to pay for. Good news is we've been verbally promised by TxDOT that these fees as well would be repaid, and the construction cost of fixing the corner will be paid entirely by TxDOT.
And verbally, they told me the same thing, that they own it, they'll fix it.
So what I'm trying to do to further go on, I'm trying to get a promissory letter from TxDOT. Have the Streetscape Committee working on a letter to them to try to get a promissory letter of reimbursement for these fees, as well as promise to fix the project. I want to see it in writing. I anticipate these fees can be refunded by TxDOT. The only bad news on that is, from what I understand from our administrator and the experience he's had in these cases, is it generally can take somewhere in the neighborhood of a year to get repaid.
About a year. Well, it'd be as quick as 9 months, so that'll be a year.
So I'm asking for money to fund something that I believe we need to move a long-standing project forward. I believe it's something we will be reimbursed for.
It's a, it needs to
Not-
be fixed.
It needs to be fixed,
It's
but
a
it's
problem.
not something that we're gonna be reimbursed for in the very near
We
future.
got there and shot some laser levels, and there's only one hundred of an inch slope to get it out of the little channel.
Correct.
It's a plus.
So here's what I'm looking for from you guys is, creative ideas on how to fund this. Talking with the administrator ahead of time about this, he believes that we could probably come up with $2,500 out of possible savings.
We have it in the professional fees, already, in the general fund. And then, of course, you know, we'll know if we're breaking through that, eventually, but we do have, we can put in professional fees. But it hasn't been budgeted specifically, no, but the hope is that we'll get reimbursed.
Well, I just, one comment, I mean, first off, worthy pause. The only line item in our budget that was increased during the budget process, as you know, because you sponsored it, was for the historic commission. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was $2,000 increase. So that $1,500. There's $1,500 right there. So in my eyes,
I've got a question. You've got a, I guess, cost not to exceed, you've spoken with us already.
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right, to do the civil engineering and plans is $2,000?
$2,500 in addition to that.
And they're gonna do that for $2,500?
That is correct. Yeah. And that's because we're receiving a deal.
Brad, you still here? So, I'm just clarifying that.
Absolutely.
You know,
I have a question. I know that apparently there is a plan for that. Just the streetscape, I don't know, I have never seen what the plan is, what it's supposed to look like. Apparently there's a plan out there, but I've been on this council now for several years and I.
how many years, Councilmember McClung? More than several.
When it came up to, I mean, it was a mess around this square. And I voted to approve it just so we could get it fixed. But then now if there's a flooding problem and whatnot, that needs to be taken care of. But I'd like to know, what is it supposed to look like according
I will
to?
touch that base a little bit.
I have pictures at home.
This, yes, is a plan that has been going on for a long time. And it just recently gotten to the stage of the true conceptual design being produced on phase one of the project, of a four-phase project. Part of why you haven't seen much of the plan going on is that corner is a large portion of our phase one project.
Right, well, I have to get that picture of the lights out of so
I think I have some stuff. Yeah, but anyway. So we're working on some brochures and everything to get out to everybody because you're absolutely right. Most people don't have any idea what a streetscape program is and what it's supposed to look like.
And there's some new blood on the street chat, but I've seen in some of the architecture, I've encouraged a public workshop where people can walk in and see the various things.
Well, just as we were getting to the completion stage of conceptual design, phase one, TechStop came in and did it. What they did doesn't match our phase one design. So everything that Streetscapes has gone out and gotten donation money to.
Wrong time.
It has been, and there was just starting to be some good progress happening. And as that happened, TechStop came in and kind of spoiled the plans for us.
Councilmember.
So everything that had been.
It's a picture from last time, did I park? No, the one that
That,
she brought.
I don't have those. Yeah.
She leave it with you.
Councilmember Moses, lost my train of thought.
All right.
So Warren, you
No,
can.
well, let me ask this. So despite any deficiencies in what TechStop did on that corner, and maybe aesthetically it doesn't mesh with our historic commission's guidelines and streetscape guidelines, It is now ADA compliant, yes?
I want it ready.
Okay, but it is closer.
Closer to ADA compliant, yes.
So how much of this are we talking about as a mistake? I mean, that's necessary. They didn't have a choice to do it any other way, as far as I know.
Essentially, the entire, from what I've been told by the architect, is the entire elevation of the corners themselves are what's wrong. It's, the shape and everything is correct, but the elevation of that corner, specifically the one by Old 300, needs to be dropped down so low that it's almost
Or underground.
and underground piping going on. There's a whole lot of issues going on there. And that's the whole deal, is we were just getting to the stage of even being able to properly design the construction plans for that corner, and that corner was constructed.
They messed it up.
Do you have a timeline on when you might reach the, and I'm not worried about whether they reimburse this $2,500. But when do you know, if we come in, if we fund this and then fund the other part of it, when do you think you're gonna have a commitment from TxDOT that they'll fix a written commitment besides a verbal?
The written commitment we are working on as we speak. I would expect that we could probably get a written commitment within the next month by the next month.
Do they need us to approve this before we get the grant?
Would you be?
Well, yes and no, and the reason I'm seeking approval on it before that letter is come is because we are trying to get the surveyor going here in the early part of January, before our next city council meeting. Reasons being is these steps in the process are going to take a little while. First step being that surveyor. And the reason I'm pushing so hard for it is TxDOT is a ticking time bomb. They want these plans yesterday. We don't have plans ready for them. I don't want to miss the window of them being willing to come in and fix this.
Make it show them ready, is what you're saying.
Yes, and that's
You could have a personnel change between now and the first.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Would you be objectionable, if we approve this conditional on the reimbursement agreement? And then whenever you get it, you're gone?
no, I would not be a good. I would not object to that.
And
I would
Or
not be
you-
reasonable.
With what we've saved, what was budgeted for our Dura, we have, you can write this check as it's already accounted for budget wise for professional services. Right?
So we have it in professional services. The question is, at the end of this, at the end of this fiscal year, we're gonna bust through the budget. I mean, I don't know, but but do we have the money today to actually pay them? Yes, we do. I think answer is whether we're actually gonna stay within budget or we add it.
are we talking about
The
$5,000?
2,500.
Because that's professional services, strictly on the budget.
Professional services includes engineering, sometimes we need a surveyor.
Is it pretty conservative, that number when we budgeted? I mean,
Conservative on the high side, they're so high, but we hammered it down significantly. You just have to have, you need to get those things first. For the tax dollars.
And the 2,500 for the architect, is that gonna be reimbursed? I mean, we're gonna be reimbursed. That we don't need to find it in our budget, right?
Well,
But
reimbursement may be some months from now.
But I do understand. So, well, I would like to see it writing as well, because I mean, even though I am asking for this money, I do not object to it. Conditional. I'm waiting on the approval letter.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we give a conditional approval for payment of the survey not to exceed $2,500 roadway stop sign at 4th Street and Baton. Conditional on receiving a satisfactory reimbursement commitment from TxDOT.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
I have a quick question. So between the survey and the architect, one of those will, have a solution for the drainage issue.
Yes,
Well, the survey won't, the survey is just a data collector.
But the architect will be working in conjunction with the civil engineer to solve the drainage issue, correct?
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Number 8, Warren, you're up.
Mayor, council, members of the public. It seems like we keep on talking about the same thing that we are. And I'm gonna try to approach it from a little different standpoint. So, I think last time, administration brought this and, a couple members of council wanted to discuss, looking at new city hall. I think we last talked about, having a feasibility on an engineering study. As we're talking about finances, we're talking about those issues. That actually is, and I haven't got an actual number of how much that would cost, but that is not a budgeted item. So what I could try to do is talk to council about looking at some low cost ways to figure out if this is something we want. So specifically, I'd like to look at kind of flushing out that draft design that we had that we provided to you a few months ago. And then look at estimates for construction of the new city hall and also include estimates for rental of the current city hall. So I don't think we've actually done that. And so instead of looking at as what is the feasibility of actually building on that specific site using the bones that are currently there, I'd like to look at, first of all, trying to move forward by looking at the design and getting estimates for construction, and then also looking at the estimates for the renovation.
Okay, when you say estimates for construction, you're talking about designing within the framework of the existing building.
Yes, sir. So I want to approach it from a different standpoint, see what council's temperature is on that. And I guess we'll go backwards and kind of talk a little bit about first of all, I want to make sure that this is something the council is comfortable with, the community is comfortable with. I'll just kind of reiterate, the reason to kind of look at moving City Hall specifically is, yes, I do understand that we're very convenient, but unfortunately, having a nonprofit, basically a city at a specific location, we're not making tax on. So that's the first thing. This would be a really good spot. You're talking about this location here, and you're looking at City Hall, and you're also looking at Xanax as an area that could be restaurant, retail. This specific building could still be something like, there could be a lot of different things that could come here, but maybe more of a store or a museum. So you're looking at two spots that could really be used for something that would actually make money for the city. The other way to look at this as well is by moving it just off the square. You're talking 2 blocks off the square. You're still providing the citizens with a location that would actually translate into convenience. And so, again, I'm not sure where you as a council are at, but I think this was something we wanted to come and discuss. I do understand that the last time we asked an engineering study, we had not done that yet. Question discussion.
So allow me to summarize and correct me if I'm wrong. This would be a revenue positive situation. It wouldn't be an expense to the city, it'd be net gain by year thumbnail estimates of this time.
So that's something we have to discover. I think the thought is, yes, it would be, and we haven't gone far enough to know that's the case.
Okay, so we would be effectively doubling the city hall office space, effectively doubling the council chambers meeting space, improving what's now an eyesore, making maximum use of the city resources, adding probably 30 parking spaces where we need it, and then generating rent income off of City Hall, this building, and a third of that building. So it'd be cash flow across the board. That's pretty much
That's the concept, yes. That's
Okay, but I guess I'm confused. Which is easy, but I guess basically, you're gonna be the person to do this. You're gonna project the income revenue side of these 2 buildings, correct?
correct. We have a realtor that will help us with that. we haven't really gone that far yet.
All right, so who picks the real?
Council, yes.
Council.
Should be council.
Okay. So you're gonna engage a realtor to tell you how much money you need for the revenue we can generate off this bill.
Yes.
And then you're gonna look at moving it up to the old fire station, but you don't have a feasibility study or an engineering review on that structure. So are you gonna estimate a new building or renovating the old building?
So this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to do this in 2 steps. I'd like to really start. We don't know yet about the engineering study. We haven't done one yet. But I'd really like to look specifically at the cost of renting this out, looking at what the feasibility is as far as the value.
You're only gonna do this half of it at this point in time.
Correct. And then come back to you asking for a feasibility at
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you've had 4 contractors looking at that, including a metal building contractor that all said solid as a rock.
Yes, we have. But to answer Councilor Smith's question, we have not gotten the actual feasibility study from Rosemary. But we have gotten contractors to look at it, and they said that it's a sound problem.
Why you don't, oh, sorry.
All right. What is the cost to engage the realtor that we're gonna select? I mean, to do an estimate of the revenues on these 2 buildings.
Just pulling comps, it's not a big deal.
So it's pulling comps, and I think we've already done some of that. The mayor has actually done pull some comps.
Doug McKenzie did it as a volunteer.
Yeah. So I'm asking them to move forward on this portion of it.
Okay, is there a cost?
These things, no, I would say that there's much as cost. There's a bigger cost of actually trying to get an engineering study, that's why we haven't done that yet.
What if we look into instead renting out the old fire station? Letting the tenant renovate it, no rent during that time. Maybe no rent for a year or 2, we come away with a renovated building that knowledge risk, I guess. So that's what I would propose. Instead of moving City Hall off, I would try to rent out the fire station.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a big market for space like that, and we'd have to be very selective. We don't want a industrial use. This, having the offices there is a low impact, would be attractive.
Well, I think it's R5, so we're insulated on the use from that standpoint. It also, kind of expand, make it so that the squares kind of expanding and expanding our area where City Hall might be a bit of a dead end, probably not so much.
So maybe council member, what we could do then is explore both. First of all, but my time's limited in the sense of all the different things that we're doing. And again, I don't want to waste your time as council. Maybe then if you want to do this, table this item and advise staff to look at both options.
Well, I think that could be added. I mean, it's just asking the realtor what the rental value would be at the citizen. I mean, that's not a big re-engineering of the whole process. It's just a question.
I'd like to make a comment. So, and I told the mayor this, the proposal, solves a lot of issues on its face. Of course, the devil's in the financial details. The issue I'm having with it is timing, because our lack of maintenance of our streets has been so well highlighted. Citizens want to see those potholes filled. And I think we've made some gains and we continue to, but I'm not sensing that the public has an appetite to finance a new facility for the city until we take care of some other things first. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, if this analysis comes out to show, which I suspect that it'll net gain the city $50,000 to $50,000 a year free and clear, that it's not an expense. It's actually a way to help fund the pothole. That's what this analysis would show.
We haven't done the analysis yet.
Yeah. So this is just looking to see to do that analysis. So you're taking the temperature, is that, you want any motion or just,
If you want to do, if you want a motion, if you want to do a motion, that'd be great. So at least administrative has a idea of what the council wants.
I have one last question from the city administrator. So, the budget that we passed does it enable the city to take on the kind of debt that would, our credit rating, our reserves, is the budget that we passed, is it in some way enable even exploring this kind of concept?
It does. I think what I probably should do maybe the next meeting, we have Steve Perry, who's has been working with Craig for years and is now taking over our account. Maybe he should come over here and kind of explain some of the things. I think you have met him before. But what I would like to do, the answer is yes. We actually are at the point where if we do need to take out a certificate of obligation, you're probably, we don't know for sure, we probably have a bond rating of about an A-. It's probably where we're at. I think what we really want is an A, and probably people getting better. Steps that we've taken is that we have a better audit. We are now actually in the black. We saw, I think it's 56,000 on general fund and about 62 on the enterprise, and that's without the rate increase. So, excuse me, with the rate increase, but with the additional rate increase will be more. So I think we are at the point where we can take on debt. But that's up to you to kind of look at.
so the motion would be to authorize you to research this more, not just the possibility of moving, but the possibility of ripping it out. Would anybody want to?
How long is it gonna be if we don't do this before you come to us and start requesting city hall chair?
All due respect, we just added an office.
Well, we added we haven't added any square footage.
But in all honesty, I mean, is that not a problem, part of the problem that we're coming up against, that you're running out of room to operate?
So the answer is going to be this. If I had a magic wand and I could add an extra employee, I would do it at the 24-25 budget. But with that not happening, we would probably have to wait for that extra employee till 25. So you're probably talking, we probably have a couple of years till we outgrow the site, but we will outgrow it. It's pretty tight. Pretty tight. I mean, we probably, like I said, it could be a year, but the truth is we don't have the money to add another employee next year. So probably 2 years.
And they don't retrofit the existing building, you're talking building ground up, it's.
And of course, if we moved and put new council chambers over there, we wouldn't have to use this building for what we're doing right now.
Well, yeah, that's correct. I also wanted to mention something, council member, when I first was hired, it was recommended that to have more room, that I actually office in this building. That was a suggestion that I think about it. And the problem is, really like the staff to be in one place. It's really hard to be disjointed. I know we have the room, but we don't have the room the way we need.
So, and I would like to make the motion to allow Maura to research this a bit more.
I personally believe that we don't need to be spending time or money on analysis, like getting analysis with the city hall.
I'll make a motion to this. I'll make a motion that we allow our city administrator to move forward and explore these options, but I would like to explore it both ways, both keeping City Hall where it's at and moving City Hall as far as the rental ability of both buildings.
Yeah, there's a second.
Does that include the expenditure of funds to do the analyses and whatnot?
I would like to see if we could get this done on a volunteer basis from a realtor. If it requires a fee to be done, I ask that it come back to the council.
Okay.
Is there a second? You don't want to look into it.
I don't think we're ready. I think I'm gonna go with Rodney on this. It's just ill time with where we are with some of the other stuff and the fact that we're considering it, it just may not be palatable.
Okay,
I'll withdraw my motion, Mr. Mayor.
thank you very much. Moving on, old business, number one, Warren.
I'd like to move as executive session, executive session on that.
Yeah, there is. Okay, move that to executive session. Number two. This is the appraisal for the 9.43.
Can you handle this? Try to search it. Yes, I think, well, where you were at. Councilman, you were looking at authorizing this appraisal, not to authorize sale, but to authorize the appraisal. But before you spend the money on the appraisal, Councilman Smith, in particular, raised the question in the agenda of whether you want to advance dictate, if you later authorize a sale, these will be the conditions of use of proceeds. I mean, so until we came to an agreement on where the money went, I didn't see the advantage of paying for the appraisal and then get paying the liquor or whatever that we weren't in agreement. And I had proposed that the funds up to the appraised amount be committed to our reserves. And anything above that would be back to the council at its discretion. And I'm optimistic that the property will bring more money than what it's for sale for, but apparently that wasn't on the agenda, so I couldn't make that motion, so we're back again. So it wasn't worded that way on the motion, but I'm supportive of getting an appraisal if we're in consensus on what we do with the money. So, I mean, if you want to entertain another motion, I'll do that again, or we can have this discussion.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, because I thought about this a bit, because I really appreciated your thoughtful condition that the funds up to the appraisal amount have to be put towards reserves.
Right.
Any excess could be spent at the council's discretion. But now, if this was 2 years ago, I might be more anxious about this, but the market has changed quite a bit. We have a lot of things coming towards us, new infrastructure, people moving in the area. If we're gonna, in fact, take what the property is worth and put it in reserves, why don't we leave it in the safest place it can be, which is in that land? I mean, this is just something yeah, this is my thought. And let it continue to grow for the citizens there, because I suspect it will be worth more down the road shortly. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening our way that are unknowns, but I think they all end up equating to a higher appraised value for that property. That might be.
And now I've got a response.
Yes, sir.
I guess. Right now, we have a A- or a B bond rating.
When we go out for it, probably A-.
Probably A-. If we have the value of this land in our reserves, what will our bond rating be?
It might go up a little bit, but I think I'll have Steve come explain that to you next month. It's a little complicated. It could be an A, but it's still an A-.
You've got to have a certain liquidity. I did check, or I had Sasha check, and we can't designate the real property.
I understand that, yes, sir.
And hold that as an asset in reserve.
Yep, I understand.
On the other point, we're discussing the highway coming this way. Half this may disappear to right of way.
That's right.
And at that point,
There will be compensation
involved there. Well, good luck.
So basically, the finance, I agree with you. Big believer in real estate investing, but having it in cash reserve, just an incremental change in our bond rating will translate to significant amount of savings over time.
Because to eventually fix the streets.
So, city administrator, are there holding costs associated with this piece of property, and round about what are they?
Let's say this. We don't have any holding costs. We haven't had any costs, but we aren't
getting anything out of it. I mean, there's, if you haven't rented it, there isn't an option to do that. I think I mentioned that to you before. There's a lot of money for it.
I don't recall that, maybe show president.
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha.
So part of another, which is withholding costs. We're not being, we're not paying taxes right now. We're not making any.
It's not requiring any maintenance of us right now.
No, I mean, we retain it, then it's subject to market fluctuation, whether the market goes up or the market goes down.
And there's been, I've heard talk, we should put a sewage treatment plant or something down there. It's deed restricted. It is, you need to be residential or light commercial, that's it. You can't do anything else there.
That's correct. I will say this, and I'm advocating for this, but I will say that right now our Texas class investments are making a little over 5%. I think I send those to you and they can get them until Texas class. So you're seeing 5% a year. And that's huge because
If you're decent income on the reserves.
But that will change as well. I mean, because about over sure. I mean, change of direction that can.
You are not tonight authorizing me to say, no.
It's been crazy. I see what we're talking about.
I get about, I don't see the reason to spend $1,800 on appraisal if we're not in agreement as to where the money's going.
Sure. So would you like to form that into a motion?
Yeah, I'll form that into a motion, and then we don't have to agree.
Sure.
On the sale, I guess basically on the sale portion of it, it depends on where the appraisal comes in, whether or not I need support.
That's right.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve to complete land-only survey with appraisal cost not to exceed $1,800 for the city surplus property in Michael Vista Estates, Lot 3, 9.43 acres, with the following caveat restrictions: that the proceeds from the sale and up to the appraised value be held in reserve for a period of 5 years, and any surplus over that may be disposed of at the council's discretion, and to rescind this reserve condition, it would take a supermajority vote.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
It looks like we're getting unplaced.
It's back into real reserve.
I just don't think at the time in his rise.
Okay, number 3, old business, this you, Tim.
Yes, sir, and this is just updating, for long last, we're going at 12:30, we're having, I still need to talk to you all later.
11:30, 12:30.
Sorry, 11:30. Who's going to participate in this call with US Army Corps and their team? They're starting, what is a federal interest determination, an official determination of the US government's interest in participating in the rehabilitation of that wall and the complete feasibility analysis and so forth. So, more to come on that, but I'll coordinate with you later on who's going to be on that call.
Okay.
I invited a couple of people, so Patrick Sparks, who's our engineer, that was updated that rock wall, he'll be on the call. Chris Stewart, who's the surveyor, may or may not be, he'll try to jump on there, it's feasible. I've asked Brad, I will come to my office, Mr. McClung will jump on as well. I think a lot of these people, some of them, some of the folks that we just discussed, they have the institutional knowledge.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so that concludes the old business. We will now retire into executive session. Thank you, everybody.
We'll see.